Syncretism, Synchronicities, the Occult, Hidden Mysteries, the Sovereignty Movement, Unexplained Mysteries, Secret Societies, Religious Backgrounds and Beliefs, Realities, Dimensions, Flat Earth, Mud Floods, Giants. You name it, we've got it all coming up in this week's fantastic podcast with our special guest, Kelly Spell. You don't want to miss this. See you soon. Hi everyone, welcome to the Drake Michigan podcast. Today we have the amazing, and I've just put on Facebook now, we have the amazing sovereignty goddess, Carly Spell.
Indeed.
Hello.
Indeed.
Hello, Carly.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, it's amazing to have you. I've heard so many wonderful things about you, because obviously Critch, back in the day when he had the pub and the Crown, and Critch has been very fortunate, probably not realised at the time, but you've got to meet all these amazing people.
It was an amazing time.
Who have gone off and they're doing amazing things and you know, expanding their knowledge and meeting new people. So to get all these people coming onto the show and having a chat with us and sharing it, it's just wonderful. So thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, no, I love it. I've been really excited about it. I've kind of taken a step back, really, especially this last year.
Right.
So I made a special effort because, like I say, you know, Ant was the first person to kind of let me do my thing.
Oh, that
get
presentation!
The crown.
I remember when you came, because obviously we'd been talking a little bit before then.
Yeah.
And I remember when you came and you set up. I think it was with Paul, wasn't Paul? Came,
yeah, Paul Stubbs.
Yeah. So you guys set up, and I was behind the bar, and we were in a period where you were only allowed to open outside. So I just spent a fortune building this stage effect outside, so people could sit outside.
Yeah,
but obviously we were inside, and I'm thinking, well, I'm all right because if the police come. Jill's here, Carly's here. She'll deal with it.
They know how to deal with all that.
Yeah. But then you were saying stuff. There was stuff I'd never. I mean, obviously I've been relatively awakening for the 10 years previous, and then you were saying these Wizard of Oz things, and I'd never heard it before. And I'm like, my chef was there, and we're looking at each other and going, what the fuck? We have been they're taking the piss out of us.
It's been all new to me. So obviously my first encounter was like when you introduced me to Andy and he was the called. So I was looking forward to meeting you because I want to expand and learn some more about it all and get another perspective as well. You know, how someone else comes at it from a different angle, if you like. So back at the Crown, is that what you did a talk on back then? Was it all the sovereignty stuff?
Yeah. I think my first talk was called Illuminate and Elevate, which is the name of my group on Telegram. So it was kind of illuminating and elevating, illuminating the dark deception, as I used to call it. Because I've been awake over 20 years.
Wow.
So kind of, awake to the clown show, and still learning. Just when you think you camped in the rabbit hole, there's somewhere, left to follow. Although I think part of that wisdom, once you realise, is just take a step back, float above the cosmic chessboard and chill the fuck out.
Yeah, I agree.
So before we go backwards, so if at the moment, when you're talking to people or like you was giving this demonstration or talk at the Crown, what's people's reaction? Like, that
was my chef. He's like,
yeah, what the fuck? I think there was, pardon my French, but I remember there was a night, as it kind of went on and the crowds got bigger and you could see that kind of consciousness tip kind of happening, and it was, I think my mum thought it was like just a load of hippies meeting up, but people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different, socio-economic backgrounds, whatever. And I always remember a 90-year-old woman who came to see me and she went, bloody bastards. Because and some people, angry as well. You get people who would just, especially, men, I think, more than women, but just being angry at it. And
because you're hoodwinked all your life.
The whole
I was going to say that because the thing is with the subject, what you're talking about there, Carly, is like obviously in the spiritual circles, if you like, people are always, if someone said prove it, then obviously that's a different thing, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what you're talking about, you can put facts to what you're talking about. So it's not as if people can shout you down and say, that's lies or that's wrong. Because if you can back that up, then people have to start questioning their own beliefs and what they've been taught, which I think is very powerful. Knowledge is power, isn't it?
Yeah.
So But so let's just have a little. So 20 years ago, let's take you back to like 10-year-old Callie.
Thanks, Kev.
You can pay me.
Come here again.
You can pay me out. I want some money for that. Or it's getting edited. So let's take you back to 20 years previous then.
Okay.
How do you come across this stuff, or what happens in your life? Is there a traumatic event? Are you working somewhere? What happens?
Yeah. Well, I think, I did have a traumatic event. My sister died of cancer, and I think I was about 11. Well, 10, just turning 11, and she was 14, so leukemia. So, and then obviously my mum and dad split up, so going from having a family to that was it. So, looking after myself after that to a degree, just more kind of emotional unavailability, and, my mum left. And so I was like, one minute everything, and that makes you start to question. Yeah, the world got dark, and just that's witnessing difficult. All that. So I just kind of just started to quit. I mean, I think I kind of came out awake. I think I don't know whether I'm from here, and I've had some experience to tell me kind of I'm not. I think that we're all time travelers, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
So I think we have these traumatic events, whether we kind of come down to play the game of Earth, and these things are programmed in. I mean, who knows? We don't know. But certainly that did wake me up. But I got asked to leave brownies because I caused too much trouble and asked too many questions, and that was before my sister died. So I was always like, why though? Yeah, no, I don't like that. I'm not into that. So I just had that personality anyway. So I had a good dose of trauma in, and then obviously I think I'm probably a little neurodiverse, so suppressed it all, and I was also very young, so a young brain can't process that. So what do? You lock it away. So I developed probably, let's say, bad coping mechanisms, but good ones as well, because I started to use my brain, and I started to use my logic, probably over my heart, really, because that's that splintered or fragmented piece of you that I died that day. A little bit of me died that day. So, but I started to use this.
Yeah.
And my friend, one of my best friends of a very long time, of 20 years, she said, you weaponized your logic. And I went,
I like it.
And I probably did, really. I got very tough, and I was very sharp, and and the rest was history, and then I just went on to have a big party. But also kind of, I was a conspiracy theorist, I suppose, towards getting to 18. I'd worked out Big Pharma, obviously, was the first one for me.
Wow, you're quite young at this stage. These are big topics for a young for a young person.
And I just knew that, watching the doctors around my sister, the doctors, again, the clues in the language, maritime term, to, the doc.
Yeah.
So
we want you to tell us all about that as well. Okay.
So I just... Yeah, pharma was the big one. I knew what they were doing, really, and I kind of deep dived that. Well, because we didn't have the internet. This time proper showing my age, my 30, now I'm in my 30s. But yeah, we didn't have the internet. So when the internet opened up everything, didn't it, massively? Because obviously it was still dial up, but that ability to be able to type something into the
and search
stuff out and communicate.
That was it then.
I mean, we had the trusted BBC at the time.
Of course, the British bullshit corporation. I know, and I think you just have that innate knowing, don't you? There's something in you that knows something's not quite right, and I like I say, I had that even as a young kid, really, just questioned everything, I suppose. But certainly I remember my friend said, there's this thing called YouTube. She was on her way out to it. She was working a night shift. She was I think she was doing in probation at the time, and I was living in Manchester, and she said, there's this thing called YouTube, and you can type in any band and it brings up any kind of music. And I sat there on the laptop, and I had a couple of Cadbury's cream eggs and a glass of red wine, and I went, YouTube. So obviously, I was a grunge fan, like Pearl Jam, all these videos. You used to spend hours, didn't you, hunting down vinyls, and then I was like, what the hell?
In your element.
And and she did a 12-hour shift, and when she came back, I was still sat there, and she went, you fucking kidding me? And I was just like, oh my God, what is this? So, to this next generation below us, they don't understand, do they?
No.
I had a pager, you know what I mean? I was retro.
Paige.
Why? I don't even know. Just my dad could ring me, Dad. Ring me. Tell me when my tea's ready. Ring me, Dad. Or page me. It's not even a call. So it just kind of Once we know WWW is 666, isn't it? So it's got its. In
I don't know. Is it?
Yeah. Well, in Hebrew, W is 6. So WWW is 666.
No.
So as much as it opens it,
mind blown.
So the internet is, it's like anything, it's balanced, Daniel's son, isn't it? So the internet's great, but it's also full of misinformation, misinformation, and it's trusting ourselves, I've learned, I think as you become more aware spiritually, and even that word's a farce now, isn't it? Really, it's just become a pair of pants and a joss stick, really. But like deep inner work, shall we say? You do kind of, you realise that all paradoxes, I say, start to feel kind of almost resolved. So you've got information, misinformation. Well, when you're overviewing, they're the same thing. It's like love and hate, horns on the same bull. When you're taking that step back, it all this place seems to begin to make more sense, I think. But it's all inward, man.
I love that. So your early 20s. I mean, what did you do? Was you into all the rave and the party scene? What was work back then? Or
all that.
Come on.
I think I just partied till like it was 1999.
Stop partying.
I'm still partying, just without the wine now. But and that's only a recent thing, cleaning my act up, I suppose, to that degree. But I mean, obviously we had the 90s rave scene, so
90s,
and I think I did a cheeky zoomy podcast with Paul Stubbs the other day called Inverted Reality, where we've all kind of got to that conclusion where, hang on a minute, why are we fighting that? Hang on, if we just stop playing the game and do the inner work, we were talking about these kind of concepts as well, that that kind of lifestyle, like, and partying and it expanded our minds, didn't it? We had that freedom to kind of convoy to Maxime's and do all-nighters and the rave scene. And I also think those are constructs that were given to us as well. But, mind-altering mushrooms and ease and, all this kind of stuff and that music and that freedom to do that, which this generation, it's all a bit too... And contrived. And we, if a girl was dancing back in the day, you had your trackies on and a crop top and you were sweating and there was none of like, you're posing to stop and,
They don't even dance and enjoy themselves these days, do they? They just get a picture.
Everything's got to be documented, and it's a bit of a sad situation.
Sad.
But there's a woman called Angie Hinks and she talks about us being Generation X. And, we can get into time and timeline splits, but almost like the baby boomers and say like, I always use my mum as an example, my poor mother. But, they're kind of like, if you kind of telling them the truth, and truth's quite subjective, but say, talking about facts are different. So we can have facts, but no. She'll go so far, but I'm not having that. She's very down to earth, very practical. No, I'm not having that. She can't, she doesn't, whether it's a spinning ball or a flat disc or a hyperdimensional realm, she's not going there, it doesn't work. But, and then you've got the younger generation, who kind of want transhumanism, who want the chips in their arms, and they're going, stick me a virtual reality headset on, brilliant, So they're going further within the dream. So it's a dream within a dream for them, so that they can get lost more. Whereas us, it's almost like we're holding these two things back, we've become lucid in the dream.
That's very interesting. That's an interesting way of looking at it there as well, isn't it? So because obviously, even during them years of like partying and raves in the 90s, that would have all been part of the system to weaken down society.
Definitely.
But it had a different effect, and I think everything they do has a duality effect. Like the web, like you said, that it has its positives as well as its negatives. But the generation today, and it does seem to go in cycles, but we seem to be producing a very weak.
It is a weak society.
The videos that you see these days, it's like, I was watching one where a kid was beating another kid up and the teacher wouldn't even stop it. He was too scared to get involved, and then I've seen other videos where people are like being beat up and they don't even fight back, and then it's like, and then you've got these university kids who all they know is how to scream and shout, and they've not got a brain in their head. They don't even know what they're screaming and shouting at. Like it's been indoctrined has been unbelievable.
It's all by design. When you see the past 3 years, you will see the fact that men didn't stand up. Most men didn't stand up. It was the women that were standing up.
Yeah, and the men that were awake and were standing up made those, could see that.
I've heard that a lot
definitely.
just lately from a lot of men as well, and they've said, do you know what, like Mark Steele mentioned it, a few guests we've had on, and they all said, thankfully the women took control
They did.
and fought back. Whether that was the nurses in the NHS, whether this was just mothers who were saying, these are not, you're not touching my kids.
Exactly.
I'm not having it. So that's played a role, which is fantastic.
The rise of the feminine, wasn't it?
The feminine.
It was the rise of the feminine. And the feminines had attacked again, isn't it? The whole trans thing is just...
That's why I've shaved my head, like I said before. It's a feminist statement against the male patriarchy of expecting women to, meet societal standards. And no, I just got fed up with it. I just shaved it off because it was doing my head in, and I thought, it's a fierce look
I think it
for
looks,
the apocalypse.
I think it really suits
In fact, I asked my missus the other week about this, and I said, are you not bothered about these transgenders trying to be women and everything? But my missus is very much like, I don't even know what you're on about. I don't care. She's very much not interested. Like, gets on with her life, if you like. And but surely I thought, if you're a woman and you've got a man who's saying, I'm a woman and I can do everything a woman can, when it's biologically just not even...
Those programmes are hilarious. What's that guy who did that? And he's really good, isn't he, about standing his ground on those issues? And I can't remember his name. He did that documentary, didn't he? Is it like, what is a woman? And I can't remember the guy's name.
Do you know what? There's a few out at the moment. What's called? We'll probably know it if we see his face, but the's a few just lately, and I've just thought they've explained it so well.
There's no argument, is there?
There's not. Because there was.
You've got to laugh, haven't you? Because
it's hilarious. I mean, one I was watching was trying to say that that he was having a period, and he was having a baby.
Yeah.
And then, he got shut down because this other person said, so if you got put in the back of an ambulance and said, look, I'm having a baby, what's the ambulance driver supposed to do?
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
But it's like
mental illness, isn't it? I mean, it's that, complete control and programming of it's that woke thing going on. And like I said, the jumping up and screaming and I mean, I always have this thought of like, what's my original ideas? Where do I get my information from? Like, we piece this stuff together, don't we? And everything's presented to us from certain constructs. But I think we have the ability to discern and have awareness and wisdom with it, hopefully. But, that kind of woke thing is like, they're just so angry at something. And it's energy in it. It's like what I think. It's not what we say, it's what we do. And it's even in the law movement and everything that's been happening, which is, why I have taken a bit of a step back from it. It's like people can be being righteous but everyone's they're all just attacking each other. So they've turned, be careful when you fight the monsters lest you become one. It's a Nietzsche thing, and it's happening and it's rife. And I was just like, I don't want to wake up to that energy. And I just thought, do you know what?
Yeah.
I'm off.
Yeah. You've got to look after yourself.
Yeah.
You really have to look after yourself.
It's energy, innit? And if we work on our energy, if you can be being righteous, you can be being vengeful in the name of something, well, wow, okay, well, check your bad self. The devil isn't some dude with horns in the corner. Now, he may be as well. I think there are different dimensional entities and varying things. But it's the energy. You can say what it is, but if that's the frequency that you're feeding that darkness, even if you think that you're not. And I'm like, and it's that discernment that I've started to see, and the wheat from the chaff in the movement, and even the movement. It's
the
just like,
it's
turned into the thing. It's become the thing that we all thought we were kind of trying to illuminate, expose to that degree. So it's just like, hang on a minute. It's quite
but it's infiltration as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I saw it at the pub, and without doubt there was infiltration, but it's happening in all the pockets. And then they take over a little bit. You get leaders that are like the Pied Pipers that come in. And
it's weird.
It's bonkers.
It's getting weirder. And I think that's, especially knowing Ant from the beginning. And I've been watching Kev. You've not been watching all of his videos and Ant's videos that they play. It's so brilliant. I've just been watching one. I've had a sneak preview. And I thought, this is gold dust that's coming. I've not laughed out that loud for, since the beginning.
We're working on our ability. We're trying to get a bit funnier, because I have had some feedback where people have gone, I just don't get it, and they're just like, it's not funny, and I'm like, but the thing is, like, so like when we're putting it together, so it's for us, it's for a certain audience as well, because if you've never heard of, say, Anna Breeze, or if you've never heard of the Truth Movement, or you've never heard of the anti-vax movement, or whatever, then when you watch some of the comedy stuff, you're not going to get it, are they?
No. It needs the reference. It needs the point of reference, doesn't it? Or
but hopefully that'll grow its own wings, if you like. Like I said, we're just in the we nearly completed the Wolf of Spirituality. Because the thing is, that's like so you talk about the infiltration of the Truth Movement, if that's what you want to call it. But I remember back in the day, like when I had my spiritual experiences when I was like 28, 29. I was dead excited. And one of the biggest disappointments was when you went round and started meeting all these spiritual people. And then you had to come away and thought, they're full of fucking shit. Right? But no, I tell a lie as well, because what you do at first, you sort of put them on a bit of a pedestal. You actually give them credit because you think, well, you've been doing this a lot longer than me, so you must know more than me. And then it's only going through some negative, crappy experiences, then you think, hey, hold on a minute here. I need to start, like, sort of working out the wheat from the chaff and that kind of stuff, and who do I put my trust in and who I don't, because you can very easily be led astray.
It's a big thing at the moment, I think, particularly, especially after everyone's put in such hard work to expose the system and all that kind of thing, when then you are kind of, like you say, like knowing Ant from the beginning, and I've worked with Andy Barlow a lot, you starting to go, the people that are genuine, and your gut tells you the ones that aren't. And when I've, historically, and over the last few years, I'm a bit naive. I can kind of skip into things, and I think everybody's like me, and I think everyone's, and we're all going to work together, and we're all going to get the unity, and, get all the law heads together to work together. It starts to be like, egos come in, and I've had a huge ego death this last year, so, I don't have the answers either, I don't think anybody does, but, that's the point, innit? We all work together, we've got the answer already, it's cheesy, it's love, man, but it's true, it's they're starting to show themselves, these characters, and my gut said no to a lot of them right from the dot, and I gave them the benefit of the doubt, and then I paid the consequence,
I think trusting that gut, though.
I think it's honourable.
And like I say, you don't need a guru. You don't need these people offering you. No, you don't. It is within you.
Well, obviously, from a spiritual point of view, I've always said this. I've never had a mentor, but I trust the information that I feel and get from spirit more than anything.
Trust yourself.
But just going back, so I think basically looking at yourself, and you talk about an ego death and realising this, that's quite honourable in itself.
It's like, oh God, me.
But when you talk about this, are you thinking like, are you mentioning people who probably are doing it for the wrong reasons? So basically they're just like trying to line the pockets, or they want people to say, oh, he's special or she's special, that kind of thing. Is that what you mean? Or
yeah, and I think it's a mix, and I genuinely, and I've questioned myself deeply over this, especially, like I say, over the last year, and I've worked on myself, especially from my trauma, from my childhood and stuff, probably from my early 30s, so I've kind of been on that healing journey. I mean, I never kind of did the ayahuasca till later and really got into all that kind of stuff. I was still partying and just trying to distract myself from going there, whereas it catches up with you in the end, and especially with, the frequencies and the things we're experiencing now. It's like, if you're not clearing out your cupboards, you really, it's going to catch up with you. And I see a lot of people, including myself, I was this constant outward focus, on let's go, let's expose the system, let's do this. I mean, I was touring up and down the country for the last 3 years, like I say, started at Ant's Pub, and I was relentless. I wasn't stopping, and in the end, the universe stopped me because I was exhausted. I was spent, and it was like it's like I just got this like horrific cosmic slap to go, sit down and stop, and I won't go into all that.
But I know what that's like. I have the same.
It was
but
awful.
do you not think as
there
well?
There are a lot of people doing it for.
You know when you're dead excited and like you went on that 3 year like really into it. I know you get the slap at the end, but you'll be able to look. I bet you during that 3 year, you would have learned so much.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, it was
amazing.
Know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's although at the time, like when we're going through it, we're excited and we think we're doing really good.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I keep making references to a bit like the spiritual stuff. So like when I first started, it was like, oh, it's exciting. This is going to change my life. Blah blah blah. I wanted to read every book I could. I was reading Buddhism. I was reading every occult book you could find. I was like a sponge. I just wanted. I want to know, and blah blah. And then you have a slap round the face or a kick up the arse and you're like. You know what I mean? And you're just like, oh, fuck. So, and it's that realisation as well. But you also, I look back now and realise I needed to learn that.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean? Because like you just said now you can see who's genuine and you can see who's fake. And also, I hate saying that as well because I part of me actually thinks some of them might not realise they're fake. What they've done is they're still on that wrong path, and it's just not.
But their place is needed as well.
Yes,
everyone's place is needed.
And the actors' mirrors. I mean, I had some huge mirrors last year to me, and I was just like, you know, the highs of it, the lows of it, the highs of it, the lows of it. You know, but in the end, you have, you know, I don't think particularly everyone's a mirror, but you know, some people believe that that's true. But certainly, for me to go, oh, you're this, you're that, you're like that, you're like this. Oh no. You know, it's like when they say do that, do this, you know, hyper focused, that was me, you know, not looking inward, that was me, you know, doing A, B, C, D, F, G. Oh no, that's me. So it's like that.
Do you know what's interesting as well? Because and we mentioned this to Andy the other day, just in a conversation.
Yeah.
So because obviously at the moment, I don't know if yourself will get into this, but Andy at the moment is very much into all the sovereignty and teaching people and doing Zooms and blah blah blah. But the previous week, we had a couple in and we had Dave in, right? Now Dave. If you go back 5 years, he was where, I don't know, maybe say Andy is now.
Yeah,
right? But he was actually going into the courtrooms, shouting the judges down in the face, saying, you are a fraud, you are corrupt. He was saying it to the doctors in the hospital. He was getting bailiffs. I mean, he knew this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then what happened was, they did it for like 3 years, didn't they, or what's called, and I think it made him quite ill, as in like, I don't know if that's how he lost his head, but anyway, it made him ill because... he was basically trying to save people from losing the mortgage, the houses, and all this kind of stuff. But then they decided, I'm done. Because he said, I'm sick of all the bullshit with it and everything. What I was saying to Andy is, I said, I know you're interested at the moment and that it's important, but how do you know this is not just another step towards the next step where you're going? Do you know what I mean? And I would like you. I know you saying you're taking a step back, but we don't know. It's only afterwards we'll be able to look back and say, I did all that, but now I'm on a completely different.
We should never stop the adventure that is our life.
No,
we? You know, because I see everything as a step. We've moved into this space now. We plan for Drake to be whatever he plans to be, but everything is a step forward.
Well, if you think about it, right? So within the last month, I've never even heard of the word sovereignty, right? You know, and then so I'm just somebody who's just in the Wizard of Oz story, if you like, and so I'm like, wow, right? And then you're meeting people who are further up the steps, if you like, who are actually I know my stuff, kind of thing, like yourself, Andy, these kind of people. But then there's a few more steps, and now you've got people who have been there, have done that. Now I'm onto something. It's just. No, because I mean,
Jacob's ladder.
Jacob's ladder.
Exactly. No, because what I was like, I mean, I don't know if the sovereignty stuff is that something you spend your whole life doing, or is it just I don't know.
I would say for me, I always used to say the law is a journey of the spirit, and the journey of the spirit is a journey of the law, because the law is the land, the air, and the water. So when you understand how the system works, then you're like, oh. Right. You know, the Saturnian robes of the judge, you know, the black robes of Saturn, you know, so then you're getting into what is Saturn worship, Saturn, Satan,
cube
set,
and all that.
The cube, the cross,
the crucifix, that is a cube. When you put it together, it's a cube.
You fold the cross, it turns into a cube. Now, the cube is representative of Saturn, which is Saturnalia, Saturn worship, which is Father Kronos, which is time. So I suppose, like, you know, just like Andy has, and we've had conversations about this, you know, I suppose when I say I'm moving away from the law, we want remedy, we want practical things that are going to remove people from debt slavery, ultimately. That's what it is. To create that awareness of it is key enough, because we know it's consciousness. So, you know, we can create that awareness of it is big enough. No piece of paper is going to bring that system down. No one waving and getting angry and fighting at that system is going to bring that.
That's right,
consciousness and awareness of that in numbers will bring that system down.
Yeah.
And I've come to that conclusion after 3 long years doing it. I mean, I've got a law degree. I went on to be a practicing solicitor, but I never finished the LPCR, so I'm not a solicitor. But I'm LLB honours, so I knew what the system was, but I was a music promoter for years, thought balls to that type of thing, and went on and did other stuff. But so the law is like it's a key in your mind, like anything. And like I say, you can get some. It's like, say, even in the groups, people will get angry, or people will get they're like, there's a lot of this in the group. She's doing this, they're that, she's a shill, you're a that. And I'm just like, right, that's it, I'm done. Because the energy of it is just like, sovereignty is, and Andy will say this, it's not a piece of paper. You can, this system is paper, legal is form, it's just pieces of paper, that's how it works. But, no one can tell you who you are other than yourself, and that's the key. When we keep giving our power to these outside sources, when, this is why they love that system, the Jesus Christ, the saviours, this worshipping, again, maritime terms, worship this God, and when you study genealogy and where we come from and get into all that now, that's a deep dive. Then you can go, hang on a minute, we're just constantly giving our power away, constantly. Do this for me. Now, we don't mind because we've got specific brains that can kind of go, right, we get this. So me and Barlow, we get it. Now, some people, do, permaculture. I don't get that. I get it, but I don't do it, so that's where the community bit comes in. If we can help each other.
Everyone's a cog, aren't they?
We can all help each other.
Can we, what's it called then, right? Just so... a bit of a history lesson, if you like, a bit of knowledge for us and also the viewers listening, because I'm interested. So, all this information right, and the power of the words and everything else, has that come from textbook learning and digging, or have you also had a mixture of spiritual experiences or anything what's coming to help you learn? What I wanted to get, how far does it go back? Where does it all come from? Who made these laws? Who is this evil? Do you know what I mean? Do you know
we did. That's the funny thing.
That's what I mean. So, like, from your research, where does it all begin? Who decided I'm gonna put a blanket over the truth of nature, right? The veil, if you like. I'm gonna put this secret veil. So everyone thinks the world is this illusion, but that's not the real world. Who does that? Who did it?
So to me...
I want to know the person.
Right. I've got the answer.
I want the address. 666 hell.
It is. You pretty much hit it on the head. So it's Saturn, isn't it? It's Father Time. So, the myth of Kronos, Father Time, was that he separated the heavens from the earth. Okay. Which represents the veil of the subconscious and the conscious mind, so that we don't know ourselves as the creator anymore. The veil came down, time came to slow down energy. Because we're all just energy condensed to a slow vibration, aren't we? So we have this illusion of matter. And that makes us think that this is real, right? Because we can feel it. Ooh, this feels nice. This has got to be real. But we know that, that's science, trust the science. That this is just, we are just all energy condensed to a slow vibration. Now, you've got to take the key word there, and that's slow down. We're slowed down. So what slows things down? Time. So again, it's to do with the veil, and it's to do with this element of our consciousness where we are in a dream. We've just forgot that we're dreaming, whereas we're going, hang on a minute, I think I'm in a dream. So you're becoming like lucid in the dream. So we talk about time. So have you seen that film Lucy? I was like, this is a great film. Because at the end she says, time gives matter legitimacy. It is time that makes us feel that this is real. And what she means by time giving matter legitimacy is that basically, without, take a car, she uses that example, take a car and speed it up infinitely, it'll disappear. So space-time needs to slow down that energy so that we can see it, so that we can experience it. So it is a dream that we're in, but it's still a fundamental, reality that we're experiencing. But really, you know, it kind of isn't real. So when we go to sleep, we're in another dream state. It's just another frequency. And it's like the film Inception, you know, another reference. Yeah. It becomes where it's a dream within a dream within a dream. So what do they want now? They want AI. They want virtual reality. They want us in another dream. You know, people are actually buying real estate. This was on the podcast I did yesterday. Oh, yeah. People are actually buying real estate in virtual reality.
And people are getting jobs.
And getting money in it.
Earning, but we've got someone, but blockchain. Yeah, but this is funny because the WEF have said, and this is coming later on this year, but they reckon this is the new currency, the old blockchain, and so this is what I thought. The way we're going, you could end up living in the virtual reality set, if you like. Yeah. But how do you know this is not the virtual reality set?
Exactly. Right. So
that's a head fucker, isn't it?
Right. So then you get into the writings of Angie Hinks, and I always big up Angie Hinks. Find her on Facebook. We've just dragged. We try and drag her from her writings and getting her onto where she's speaking at the moment. Yeah. And she talks all about these concepts. You know, I've learned such a lot from her. Because I was talking about time 2 years ago, and it's. After I've kind of been fighting the system, I've kind of gone, and I had me kind of spiritual kind of rebirth or whatever, and my ego death and my, oh God, cringe moments. So, and then I come back and I'm still cringing at myself, probably talking now, but, you know, because I don't have the answers. These are just like, you know, my
Well, we're all trying to learn, aren't we?
Yeah, and I take it in, right, okay, so take time, Father Time, in relation to the law. Mm-hmm. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting for me, and this is why the law's taught me so much. You're not going to win that game, you know. No. You don't get, well, we can win it, but we could be more like ninjas and sidestep it. That's it'll bring itself down, as we know, and that's what it's doing with the Great Reset and everything else. But this is why, you know, clocks are very important to them. So you get a church, tends to have a clock on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that spire represents Saturnian worship. Now, they would have been old pagan sites and energy centres. So they build these buildings and it's an energy harvest and they stick a clock on it. Same with government buildings, town halls, what have they got on them? Clocks, clocks. Yeah. Big Ben, the owl face, clock, clock. And they're telling you, really, that the way they do these soul traps is to do with Father Time, Saturn, the Saturnian robes of the judge, you know, the legalese, the language, you know, the constructs, you know, the box, Saturnian cubes, box, like the Tephilim, you know, like the, you know, the Muslims all wander around the big black cube, don't they? I can't remember what it's called. Yeah. But so again, you know, we're boxed into these constructs. We're boxed into time, you know.
Can I just interrupt there? Sorry, because I'm really intrigued now. So, Father Time.
Yeah.
Are we saying that's like evil? Is that like Satan?
Yeah, I suppose we kind of we can call it evil. It's that duality thing, isn't it? So again, it goes back to perhaps, you know, what I was saying in relation to all paradoxes kind of being resolved when you step outside of that paradigm that they present to us, because they're constantly giving us these narratives, and this is what we were talking about in detail yesterday. If you control the story, you control that narrative. Well, then you control consciousness, because they'll go, oh, it's bird flu, and everyone, the truth movement go, it's bird flu next, it's bird flu next. So what are we doing? We're creating exactly what they want us to create. I went really into scripture, and I'm not into religion, because, you know, religion means to hold back, to thwart, to bind. It comes from the word religia. Latin itself, you know, and this is the deception. The word Latin means to deceive. That's the meaning of Latin. So all these constructs that they're giving us all the time, language, counting systems, you know, and obviously sending us to indoctrination school camp, so that we're not creating our own narratives, we're not creating our own stories. Now, you then take time, you know, back to this idea of, you know, time slowing down energy. Say you've got a projector, in a cinema with all the kind of equipment, maybe a more old school equipment than this. And you would have like a run of film, wouldn't you? And it would have a still frame to still frame, moment to moment. And the light would go through the film. They would run the film. So it would give the image, the illusion, the picture on the wall. Yeah. So in theory, really, that's what we're in. Mm-hmm. We're projection.
I've heard that as well, because some people say we're just a light.
Yeah.
Sort of a hologram of light on this. Well, because what gets me thinking, two things really, right? So first of all, I'm thinking, so why don't God just say, how dare you do this to my people, and fucking save everybody? But then another part of me is thinking, but if this is a dimension that we've created, it is actually a fantastic school. but to try and free yourself from this dimensional.
It's a
Yeah,
game.
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? But then I'm also in my head, I'm thinking things like, well, how do we explain like having babies and like, because obviously you were born, you've got parents and everything else, but now we're sat here as humans saying, oh no, it's not real, we're just light, and so
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? So you're trying to.
So many algorithms to this mad game.
I know, but do you know what? And this is really interesting, going off track and come back, because I normally before I have a guest or someone to catch my attention.
Yeah.
And when I was flicking through YouTube last night, someone caught my attention.
Yeah.
Right, and it was only a little video, and what it was a cube, right?
Ooh.
And what they did was, it was a scientist, and what he did was he put an apple in a cube, right? And over a month and then a year, the apple disintegrates, bacteria sets in, and it dies, right? And eventually, it turns to dust in the cube.
Right.
But the apple is still in the cube, right? So now the dust becomes atoms, particles, atoms, and they start, neurons, and they start reacting and firing and creating this amazing, and the energy is off the scales. Like, I mean, it's massive, right? And then what happens is, there's an infinite number, but it's not, I know I'm wrong there, it's not infinite, because it's tens and tens and tens of billions of numbers, right? Yeah. Where the apple will try to form and construct itself into something else, right? But eventually, it will have to form itself back into the apple. Because that will be another one of the numbers of the construction, right?
So that's like past life.
But because this is what
This is all starting to make sense.
because this is what he said. He said, now let's put in the box anything.
Wow, yeah.
So now let's put a human in the box. You die, but you're still all that energy. So now you're forming all different shapes, you're becoming all different things, but now eventually you've got to be a human again.
That zombie apocalypse is going to happen, isn't it? They're all just going to go, out the box!
It's fucking crazy.
Well, and this is why they bury us in boxes.
Yeah.
It's fucking
It's symbolic
crazy.
as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, what did they do? They put the dead all around that energy centre with the clock on the top.
Yeah.
If you look at the opening ceremony, it's clocks. If you look at the opening ceremony for CERN, big
That's
fuck
right,
off
yeah,
clock.
seen that,
They're all
yeah,
coming.
yeah,
Synchronicity
yeah.
comes out, the horned pan god, because CERN means Synchronicity, and all the zombies come out, and they're saying that even the head of CERN, hasn't he, says, Sergio, whatever his name is, says, either we're going to bring something through from another dimension or put something
That's
through.
right, yeah. And the 666 in the logo as well. So,
Is that-
And they've got
yeah.
Carl, is it Shiva, the destroyer in the
Shiva,
portal? That's the
It's
symbol
bonkers, that
outside.
ceremony.
And of course, the D-wave computers that they're using. It's not 001 anymore, is it? With quantum realm
That's
computing,
right.
it's it's past, present, and future. It goes to time again, but we know past, present and future. It's not linear. It's that's illusory. It's all happening simultaneously at once. So and what are the D-wave computers in? Big black boxes.
Of course they are.
Of
course they are.
This is what I love, because do you know what? Every time you talk about something, it just brings up so many questions for me. So first of all, I want to ask, is there any connection there why we have a time of birth and a time of death? Because you keep going on about it. You know what I mean? So I wonder if there's any connections there, because it's always a big thing, isn't it? What time was he born? Who gives a fucking born? What time did he die? I don't know. Who gives a fucking dead?
And again, Kronos, there's a famous painting by Goya where he eats his own children because he represents the cycle of rebirth.
Right.
Now, the cycle of rebirth in relation to time or father time is the soul trap. Some people call it the demiurge or what have you. That we go that maybe the moon. Pink Floyd said the dark side of the moon. We're not shown real images of the moon either, are we? It's actually colour. It's actually colour images of the moon. NASA actually show you an upside down version, and there's all kind of bases and weird and wonderful things going on in the moon. And there's some really good documentaries on it on YouTube. I can't remember the name of the guy who did it, but we're constantly being lied to. Even like say when you understand the law, the legalese, the language of the law. When you take it back to the roots, the etymology of it all. It's all a construct designed to trap us. Now the Tower of Babel, which is one of the machines at CERN, they call it the Tower of Babel. I don't know if people are aware in scripture, and of course scripture is what? Your script. Control the narrative. It's your script. Follow this. So the Tower of Babel was basically, you know, they made this big temple tower where they were trying to obviously reach
That's
God.
right. Yeah.
And God kind of got a bit pissed off about it and said, "Oh, you're trying to usurp me, yeah?" And they were like, "We don't need anyone telling us what to do," type of thing. So he destroyed the Tower of Babel and he scattered his peoples amongst the earth, but he gave them different languages, so that they could, so they were splintered and divided. And this is the tale of, and I'm telling it, I'm no scholar of scripture, so I'm telling it very badly for people who are going, that's not exactly correct. But there's more to do with the analogy of language and that construct. You know, everything's boxed, giving us those constructs to box us in. So if we're all speaking different languages, and again, etymologically speaking, and this is interesting, language means the monsters of war that protect the noble ones. That's what language does, because English language is a construct in itself. It's something they've given us because it's the language of the dead.
Yeah.
Because you're already dead. You're dead. I'm dead.
Yeah.
We're all dead in the land of the dead. So the land of legalese is the dead fiction, of course, in relation to maritime terminology in the birth certificate. So, it goes back to the dream state. This is a state of consciousness, it's like Neo in the Matrix, when he goes out of the Matrix, but then he goes back in, and Morpheus says, "You think that's air you're breathing?"
That's it, yeah.
And that's kind of what we're in. Or not, I might be talking bananas,
I don't think you are. It's like Jacob's Ladder, the film as well, because it's like purgatory,
exactly.
isn't it?
It is. We're in a hell. We're in a kind of purgatory.
And you've just got to find your way home somehow.
That's it. Boom. It's about trying to get your way back home.
Yeah.
And if we're constantly distracted by other people's narratives, if we're not going inward and actually connecting with source, and even the word God, and we spoke about this yesterday, that the trouble with the word God is it's got so many cultural references to it. It means something so completely different to so many. They have a God. When they go, "I would just like to thank God for my Oscar, for my award," and well, their God's Baal, isn't it? Same as the Saturnian gods of Moloch and Baal. The House of Lords. This is my biggest one, and you'll have heard me say this if you've seen me on other videos. Baal Lord in Hebrew means Baal, so it's the House of Baal. And this is so everything's this Saturnian worship, and we've all gone. It's like, what's that film? I always forget it. You told me, Anne. It was They Live.
They Live, yeah.
And you put the glasses on, whoa!
Yeah.
And it's everywhere, So it's about getting back home.
It is about getting back home. I'm fully with that, yeah.
God.
And how do we do it? And that's the puzzle, that's the game.
That is the game, that's the labyrinth, and another one of my favourite references, and what's he doing with the clock?
Oh, of course, yeah.
And the balls.
See, I always love
he likes his balls.
He likes his balls.
From a spiritual
He's got great balls, Bowie. He's probably still alive. Have you seen that, where he's still alive?
Yeah,
my God.
That interview with him after he died, yeah.
What they're trying to say, Bowie's still alive?
So we have to watch this, I'll find it for you. There's an interview with this guy. When Bowie died,
Reacher or something.
this guy did an interview on Sky, I think it's Sky News or something. And it's fucking Bowie. It's like, it looks just like him.
Yeah,
and
there's some crazy shit going on.
And Dave, Michael Jackson.
There's
no doubt with Dave. And you've got to watch the original interview, because they've actually because people worked it out. I mean, how can you not work it out? Then replaced Dave with another Dave. So
I've not seen that one. I've seen the original Dave.
The original Dave. Just like, and you're just this shit gets wackier, but I think the dark literally go, they're still not getting it. Jim, they're not, what can we do next? Monkeypox, brilliant. Whack the monkeypox out, they're still not waking up.
Fuck's sake, it's crazy.
And it gets just sillier and sillier.
I always just watch Cool quickly, because again, so I trust when I get a message from Spirit, if you like.
Yeah.
And I've said this many times, what's called, so my partner's grandma, she died. Yeah. And a few weeks after she died, she come through to me in a dream. Right. And it was a dream, but it was very real.
Yeah,
right? But as she walked away, I just went, Grandma, is there a God? And she just looked back and she smiled and she just said, Kev, who do you think the giver of dimensions is?
Ooh.
Right. And I love that. And then because
the giver of dimensions.
And as soon as I woke up and I thought, giver of dimensions, God. Now the thing is, in a dream, how could she reply to my question? She replied to the question. Do you know what I mean? And then I woke up and I thought, but giver of a dimension, that does mean God. And then if we are in a dimension and we're in this school of learning and trying to break ourselves free from the satanic fucking bullshit and all the rest of it, then it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
free will makes a lot of sense as well, as in, I'm not getting involved. You know, you've all got your opportunity. You can either come back to the light or you can crack on and have another go.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, and again, that word God, it's you know, I was watching some videos of a guy that I kind of studied, and he was saying God comes from God, which is Gadriel, one of the fallen angels, which is the god of war.
Interesting.
So they worship in scripture, allegedly, the god of war.
Interesting.
The Elohim that's spoken of in Old Testament is plural. Elohim means the powerful ones. So it goes back to the watchers, the fallen angels, the Elohim, angels, Ezekiel, Gadriel, Gabriel.
Yeah, and then you've got the archangel, archons.
The archons, the archons. And then it goes to the Nephilim, which were hybrids of, when basically the fallen angels mated with human women. And created these
the Book
giants.
of Enoch, that, isn't it?
The Book
See,
of
we
Enoch.
need to have, obviously, hopefully going forward, we need these podcasts just on them extra, because that's a topic, because I'm sat here thinking, let's just talk, but we've got so much we need to talk about.
But we'll do it again.
I know.
We'll do it again and again.
We're here now. Did I not say?
Because I want a podcast. I want a podcast where we talk about these Nephilons and the Acons and all the rest of it.
It's amazing.
And because what was that? And it's interesting as well, and it's facts. So I was watching a few weeks ago about archaeological facts, if you like, or whatever. And apparently, so if you go back in time, the language has changed. So in the alphabet, certain words never used to have like an L or an I and all this lot.
Hebrew,
and this is where, so like the name, we have Jesus now, but that used to be Jeshua or something like this, didn't it?
Ivavave.
But this is all new to me, see.
In scripture it says, speak his name and you shall be saved. So they removed his name from scripture, so you can't say it.
And that's what I
replaced
wondered,
it with
is that
Lord
what they
in
did?
capitals, which means Baal.
But
actually, even Jehovah, I watch a guy called Paul Wallace, he's called, and people check him out if you're into this kind of thing. Again, he was actually, he went to the Vatican as a translator, and he was, he was a priest and a scholar. And they said, can you just translate these, but don't translate it, say this. And he went, sorry, I'm not going to do that. And obviously broke away. And he wrote a book called Return to Eden or something of Eden. But anyway, he's on YouTube, check him out. And he deep dives this. Now, this is where I'm at, and again, I'm not saying this is true. I've had light beings at the end of the bed. I've opened a portal, and the only thing I should say in relation to time as a trap, it might sound cheesy, but it's an Interstellar as well, the film, the Tesseract.
It's amazing seeing that, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only thing that can transcend time is love. And that opens portals. And the pineal gland, all these kind of, scripture references they're anatomical, the astrotheological.
Definitely.
Scripture's not meant to be read literally. And when you get into the genealogy of it all as well, and I forgot my original point. Oh yeah, Paul Wallace.
Yeah.
So, basically he deep dives this and talks of paleo contact, which basically is extraterrestrial contact made thousands of years ago by our ancestors. I mean, it's documented all along cave walls. Even the story of Jesus and the New Testament and the Old Testament, they come from Greco-Roman and again, ancient Sumer, which then talks about the Archons, the Anunnaki. I mean, I put a post up and I can never remember the name of it, but there's basically an alien drawing that we view the Earth from here. We can see all these codes and symbols to the sky people, which is basically they're looking down. So football stadiums look like eyes from above. We know those kind of things, and all the buildings are placed out in symbolically, and so it's the same kind of thing. And there's this big alien drawing of this creature that you can see, and I put it on my Facebook. I forgot, my memory's terrible, but the Pope has them on his garments. It's the exact same. They know.
I've seen it.
Yeah. And I can't remember what it's called.
Yes.
But we study this. We study genealogy. We study where we come from. We study the bloodlines. For the life is in the blood. You know about blood, or modern medicinal snooze at it. everything we need to know is in the blood, as we know. So again, they're telling us all the answers without telling us. So we read, they go, oh, we'll all just worship Jesus and we'll all do this. But no, if they're telling you to do something and it's actively encouraged, you can guarantee that they're telling you a lie, you know. And it's huge,
definitely.
isn't it? You know.
Well, do you know what? It's funny that because I was probably having the conversation with the wrong person because I was chatting with my missus about it, and she's not arsed at all. But
that's why you get it out of here,
but
Kev.
what I was saying
like, go to
was
work, Kev.
exactly get a real fucking job. It's sat around talking all day. But the thing is, I mean, listen, I'm sure the satanic world and the dark are a little bit more cleverer than me. But if I was going to pull people away from the light or the source or the God energy or whatever, I could think of a few things what I'd do straight away. And what I'd do is I'd basically eradicate Jesus' name from scripture, if you like, and everything, or I would call it something else, right? Yeah. Or I would call it that so they don't know the truth.
Inversion.
I would fuck around with the calendar, so you know that. So I'd tell them there's only 12 months in a year instead of 13 or something.
Hang on a minute, Kev. You are the dark leader.
I just good podcast.
This is starting to sound familiar.
What I'm thinking is, if
I'm starting to question myself now.
the less I could get you to think about the fucking truth, but it makes a lot of sense.
Well, it makes you quit coming back, doesn't it?
Yeah,
you're going to keep coming back because you're not going to go home. Because you're trapped because you have got...
Yeah.
It's a labyrinth.
Because if you never knew the truth, because all you ever did was believe the BBC and all these kind of... I mean, you know, we're talking about, but it's a lot deeper.
You're trying to say the BBC, who are paedo harbourers and not to be trusted.
Well, I just think they've got a bad record. And, they've been very unlucky with the people they've had on.
We do have a guy who has been telling us all about the groom cupboard, and we do have that video on YouTube.
Yeah.
Philip Schofield and Gordon the Gopher. Let's not go there.
Yeah. But the thing, because I thought this is a very current topic as well. So you got the Dalai Lama. For those who haven't seen it this week, he had a small Indian child on his lap saying, like, give me a kiss, suck my tongue, blah, blah, blah. Now, the thing is, if you were a teacher in a high school and you got or a primary school teacher and you got a kid and said, kiss me, you would lose your job, your career, you'd be on the sex register.
Well, was his parents at that time? Was that kid's because you had a door over and I smacked that kid, don't give a shit who he is.
The thing is as well, because these people are put on these pedestals of power and all the rest of it, and now they're trying to backtrack and say, oh no, it's part of Tibetan culture and all this bullshit. Now listen, anyone who watches that clip, it's a bit seedy, it's disgusting. Right? Now the thing is, but then you did some research, and we know the Dalai Lama has a background with the CIA.
Yeah, right? He's not the real Dalai Lama anymore. As soon as they took over Tibet, it's not that guy. I mean, there probably might have been originally, historically, thousands of years ago, Dalai Lamas, but this guy is not that.
No, it's inversion again, isn't it?
But what I was going to try and get at, so let's take your a movie star who we like. Let's just say someone like Tom Hanks. Right. But if
he's a good movie star.
But if he was an undercover agent and so, if I was darkness, I would spread my little demons, if you like, in all positions of power, films, entertainment, TikTok, politicians. You would put them in position, because this is what makes me laugh. I tell you what makes me laugh. You'll do a session.
I'm starting to have an idea that maybe you use some dark genius.
But this is what always used to make me laugh as well. So like you'd get little Mary or whatever, and she'd come for a session of Reiki healing or something back in the day, and she'd say, "Oh, the devil's coming through and doing this, and this," and I'm thinking, yeah, because I'm sure he's going to spend his fucking time with you, Mary. Right? Like, there's all the people in the fucking world who he could infiltrate, but he's going to... You who works at B&M. I think you need a little bit deeper here, love. But anyway, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Mary.
Speaking of, I don't know if you ever saw it, we'll go and just briefly go back to Tom Hanks. I don't like talking about Tom Hanks, but... Did you ever see, because I know you were sort of not within that movement over the past 3 years or such, did you ever see the Instagram post that he was putting out there with the shoes? Yeah, and the
children's
shoes and the gloves and stuff like that.
Oh, you don't know about the Tom Hanks thing. Well, he's actually a Rothschild, isn't he?
Is he a Rothschild?
Yeah, allegedly. I mean,
because we've gone off track in our topic, because this is the thing as well. Everything leads back to something. At the start of this conversation, I was saying, you know, where does all this evil and that start? Because a lot of people, I mean, again, I'm not factually aware, I've not got that knowledge. A lot of people trace things back to certain families, and whether that's the Jews and all the rest of it, and your bloodlines, now, does it go back even further than them? So they're just a family. I don't know.
The 12 tribes of Israel, and then there's 12 tribes of Satan. So the 12 tribes of Satan were created to mock the 12 tribes of Israel in Scripture anyway. And again, you know, I'm no biblical scholar, but you know, the 13th bloodline is the Merovingian bloodline, which is spoke about in Matrix 2. I think, isn't it? Oh, yeah. And that's the merging of the Christ bloodline and the satanic bloodlines.
Right.
So apparently they're brothers, which leads to that duality again, you know, light, dark, good, evil, you know, and the rest of it. So, you know, but I mean, the thing is with Scripture, you know, and I don't want to upset anybody who's, you know, because I went full into Scripture, especially with the law. I was thinking, no, you know, all this simulation stuff, nah, it's not real. Jesus is coming back. You know, I kind of got, and I did that for a while, and then I went, No, I did a shitload of mushrooms in Scotland on a pilgrimage, and I just went off world, and I, you know, I just
opened yourself up.
I just saw it, you know. And now a lot of people say, well, that's the demons giving you that experience. So, and I'm like, no. And you know, I don't think that I'm a god. I think that I'm a co-creator. And again, it's, you know, I think that we are this, you know, individuated consciousness of the one. I say the creator. I stay away from God, because that word, even in Scripture, you know, if you read it with a concordance, which is how you should read Scripture, different meanings to different ways of how it's spelled. I stay clear of it. And of course, with the reference to God and Gadriel and the god of war, and the god of this place allegedly is this trap of time, this demiurge that has kept souls recycling, reincarnating, and not being able to kind of ascend. You know, transcendence is the trance ending, isn't it? So when the trance has ended and you stop believing everyone's narrative of who you should be, who you should believe, what religion you should be, you go, hang on a minute, you start listening to yourself, then you're starting to find that portal, that doorway, which is the pineal gland. What you know, when I say Scripture is anatomical, you know, Golgotha is skull. Skull means, you know, so Jesus crucified between two thieves on Golgotha. You know, the temples is, you know, overturning the tables in my father's temples is the temples. So the eyes are the deceivers, the two thieves, and the Jesus Christ in the middle is the pineal gland, which is, if you've got the chrism oil, you know, the kundalini, the Jacob's ladder, it's anatomical. Transcendence is when we decide to transcend, end the trance of this place.
This is fucking ace.
So it's like, this stuff is where I've gone to really now. I love the law, don't get me wrong, and working with Barlow if you want your mortgage, no win, no fee, and getting rid of people's debts. And because, you know, we also... We are here in that reality. Let's get people out of that. But that
comes back to what I was saying before about, is that just a step for your next step? Like what, like, you know, there's because obviously you'll be looking to end the trance and become more, right? Definitely. I mean, like for a very down to earth guy like myself, let's be honest. Right, so part of us really wants Jesus to come, if you like, a second coming, because it makes it easier. But the thing is, if a man walks the earth again and wipes out all the evil, let's be honest, and I think, what is that? You know what that is? That's not taking responsibility, because now you're just letting someone else do it for you, right? And I think that's why a lot of people fall into that, and you can spend your whole life. How many people are in the graveyard now? How many people are in the graveyard who spent their whole life thinking, no, he's going to come, the second coming's going to come, right?
So you don't do the work on yourself.
Exactly, and now what happens if you spend your whole life not working on yourself because you think it's an outsider that's going to come and save everything, which would be the easy option, which would be great, and I hope that does happen, by the way. But what if then you find out, no, the truth was you had to do the work within
Yeah.
That's how you release the Christ.
You're asking for Donald Trump to save everybody and trust in the plan.
Exactly.
There,
well, exactly. And it's the same kind of thing that he's being hailed as the saviour, and it's all an act. Just as you get acts and statutes in the law, you know, the clues in the titles. A statute is a dead, lifeless thing. An act is a good piece of theatre, and it's all theatre. Shakespeare said the whole world is a stage, and it literally is. So once you kind of see through it all, and you know, take this idea, you know, of debt slavery. Like I say, you don't want to go to fight in that system because you're feeding that system. You're giving that energy, that system, giving that system that energy rather. Whereas if you, like say, like my friend Shane says, be a ninja. You know, if you're going to be a bit more of a ninja, be a debt ninja. Learn how to be the banker. Learn how to discharge debt. Learn how to set things off. Learn to be the creditor and not the debtor. That's a state of mind as well as a piece of paper. But you know, we can help with the paper stuff. That's the easy bit. The why is always the harder question. That's what I always say. Ask yourself the why, the how becomes quite easy. And like I say, come and join our groups. We can help you with that. And you guys will pop them up, I'm sure. But let's get rid of your mortgages. Let's get you playing again. Let's get people's vibrations up. You know, so you've got more time. You know, say like all the nurses, you know, who are perhaps still stuck in those jobs. Well, if they didn't have a mortgage to pay and gas, electric and all the other stuff.
Freeze time.
Yeah, or, you know, you can actually make money on debt when you do it smart. You know, debt becomes credit. You know, there's 1099 forms. You know, I don't do them, but I know people that do, you know, where you can claw back. Every debit that runs through your account is actually what we call an abandoned credit on the Securities Exchange. So every time we're pinging, which is why the banks love to give you a debit card, debit, we're abandoning credit. And the banks sweep all that up in the background. Now, you can claim that back, but you don't have to know how to do it, which is why they never tell us how to do it. Keep them sick and keep them stupid, you know. So, because if we can free ourselves from debt, that's why I want to, you know, it's still one of my biggest passions. I don't want to get involved in all the, you know, the bitching and the nonsense and the energy of it, but come over, let's get some practical things where we can, get rid of your mortgage for you. Stop paying your credit cards. Stop paying the debt collectors. So, you know, lose that fear and start painting. You know, it might just free, you know, you don't have to be awake or, you know, you could just go, do you know what, I'm going to go painting
just
again.
Just be a creator.
Create.
You have to be a creator of your life.
Can I go backwards a little bit? So when you're talking astrotheology, it's quite interesting. I think it's almost like, as the veil is lifting, as we are in Revelations or the crazy times that we're in right now, I think things are put in place for you at the right time. I think everything's divine me. So I've gone through 10 years of like my spiritual awakening, if you like, to going in and seeing all the corruption of the world and the way the world works. To then last year, as I was working on myself, coming across Santos Bonacci for the first time. Now, I've been sort of studying stuff for 10 years, but for whatever reason, Santos was not in my consciousness till last year. And then more Jordan Maxwell. And then, like I said, the raising of the chrism. All these stories, and I'm thinking, this is fucking amazing.
It blows your head, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you wasn't ready for it.
I wasn't ready for it. No, exactly. I had other things to do.
It's those subtle kind of levels of that learning, isn't it? And, you know, it's like, just this, I mean, I always call myself a recovering Catholic, you know, for crack, because, you know, the church say, you know, the Roman satanic civil system, that's what it is, you know. So, you know, they put the Jesus on the, you know, and it's the Dalai painting, Corpus Hypercubus, and if you know, Google it, look at it, it turns into a cube. And they staple this guy, and we all turn up to church and they get you to drink of the blood and to eat of the flesh. Now in scripture it says don't drink of the blood, for the life is in the blood, and don't eat of the flesh. So they get you to break the first two rules of the Creator straight off the bat by worshipping this God. But this is the God of war. This is the God, the demiurge of this place, Father Time, you know, and we've given our power to it. You know, people say, but it's all about our intent. Well, that thing doesn't occur. Hence why it gets us speaking this language, this protection of it, the language of the dead. You know, if you go to earn money at work, you know, earn is death, isn't it? And earn is what you put ashes in. Job in Hebrew, you know, go get a job. Job comes from Job, which means persecution. We'll get a persecution. You know, so we're good morning, the obvious one. You know,
Morning,
you saying morning, that's what we do to the dead.
And hello.
We are in the land of the dead. This is purgatory, and you are already dead.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Leonardo DiCaprio, you know, in The Revenant, you know.
Oh, The Revenant, yeah.
I think
With the
Revenant
bear.
means,
Yeah.
it's one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It got such
that film.
praise, didn't it? Do you love it? I must have missed something. I'm in the pictures going, but the best line ever is when he goes, I ain't afraid to die. I done that already. And he's crawling about on the floor again, and then Tom Hardy. I'm lost. What's going on?
I think there's going to be a place for you on our sketches with that actor.
Oh my god, I'd love that.
We're doing it.
That's what I love about this. You know, we're taking it all too seriously, but I get why people do, because until you transcend it, until you end the trance, then you can. I came back round from those mushrooms, peaceful, just going. I just got it. I was just chilling. There was people like losing their minds, and I'm just like that. I'm getting like all these energies, all these deities coming at me, and it's balance. You know, the dark's coming at you, the light's coming at you. It's that central point. Like, definitely, you just got to stay balanced in the storm.
Speaking of deities, Kali.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. So what? How did that happen? Why?
I know I got some stick for it early on. I probably still do in certain circles, but I think one of the last posts somebody put up against me was like, "Oh, she's a sexual demoness of destruction." I'm like,
do you put up with a lot of like crap and shit off people?
I do. Yeah, I've had a lot of it. Over the years. You know, it's like anything in it. You know, you stick your head above the parapet to that degree, you're going to get it chopped off. Innit?
But it's hard to take into. Like, it's not nice, is it?
It's horrible.
It's not nice, and I don't do it to other people. You know, I don't even retaliate. I'll just sidestep away, because you just feed in the same energy.
Yeah.
And I just think
block me.
You don't get it.
Block.
And it's that week from the chaff thing now. It's like, do you know what? I was immersing myself still in that energy, and I thought, well, you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of cut it off. But the Carly thing. It started because, you know, and I went down the Trump thing. I did 3 months of Trump going, yes, Trump's going to save us. Oh, you idiot.
Was that the whole Q thing?
Yeah. So
Right,
I was called a few things on Facebook, because my real name's Jill. You know, I always say, I never kind of hide that. I am Jill. But I was, you know, when the pandemic first hit, you know, I've been awake 20 years. I knew exactly what it was. You know, I'd trained to be a yoga teacher. I was going to go into, you know, I was cleansing my chakras and shit, man. You know, in a way, I was saved from the new age.
You don't want to implode.
No.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
Oh my god, that video! I can't wait for it. You'll know what I'm talking of when it's released. Release the Kraken. You know.
Release the truth.
Yeah. Well, and this new age is the light bearer, the Lucifer, as we know. So yeah, I kind of it all, and he did it. You know, I suppose this pandemic saved me from myself in many ways, because you've got something to see that you're not. You know, that's what the dark is. It's there to make you make a choice, pick a side. You know. Yeah. So the Carly thing came from, obviously I had that many kind of accounts cancelled by Facebook for not going against, going against community standards.
Of course.
So I think I was Jill, and then I was Jay Hazeltree doing it, and I got into all the American stuff, and then I thought, oh, you idiot, oh yeah, and all the, you know, child trafficking, and again, we're all feeding those narratives back to the dream state, you know. I've never seen any dumbs or children underground. I've never met Trump. I mean, how do I know? How do we know if he even exists? We don't know. It's
the world's
weird,
a stage, isn't it?
World's a stage. So then I thought, well, what am I doing there? And then the Carly, I was in the law groups at the time, and I was doing like commercialised liens with the Baron and stuff like that, and learning from him, Baron David Ward, he was called. Yeah. Sadly passed, but really cool dude. He was part of the Beat the Bailiffs crew back in the day, and hung around with John Harris, and you know, so I was kind of fortunate to meet him once, and I learnt a lot of stuff from him. And then I needed a new name, and my yoga business was called Kali Yuga Genesis, because Kali's the goddess of destruction. Right. The Yuga is the age that we're in, the age of destruction, because even in the last Matrix, or not the fourth one, not the very last one, when the mother and the father sit on the bench, his age is over and her age begins. The feminine comes back, and it's an age of peace, which I think that's what we're moving into.
Interesting.
In a timeline split. If you don't get it, you're probably going into dystopia, or you're going to be recycled and start again. Who knows?
Be a rock or something for about 20,000 years.
So begin again. Can you imagine? I'm just like, I'm transcending, I'm not coming back. But so long story short,
sorry,
Carly,
because that's going to be a bit of a pisser.
Yeah.
If like you're doing all the work and you think, I'm going to transcend now, and then suddenly everyone else starts pinging off, and you're like, oh fuck, I've got it wrong, I'm stuck here, and you just look around with the cunt you're left with. Oh fuck this shit.
Oh my god, that's another really good idea.
I'm left in a world of shit. You know, like in Star Trek, they used to beam me up Scotty.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the one that was beaming me up has malfunctioned and it's broke. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake!
The storyboard is later.
I'm stuck here.
Can you imagine? I'd be right fucked up. I'm like, what did I do wrong this time? Please.
You didn't do nothing wrong. It was a malfunction with the equipment. We'll pick you up on the next round. 25 million years later. Sorry.
No, it's funny.
So that was back to Kelly and your name.
It was as innocent as that, really. And then I just needed a last name, so I picked Spell. Because I was into the etymology at the time, and obviously it's spell casting, and it just stuck.
But it rings, doesn't it? It's good.
And the thing is, people knew go see Carly. It started on Facebook, and then when I did my first talk, I was like, well, do I be Jill or do I be Carly? I thought, well, everybody knows me as Carly, and it's stuck like muck, as they say. So. Which I don't mind it. It's good.
So just going back to your name, then.
People think I have it for nefarious reasons. I've been called a Satanist and all kinds of stuff, you know.
Oh, crikey.
It's bonkers.
Maybe I am.
Who knows? It's all a show.
It's one of them, isn't it? Edit this out.
In the future, they're going to go back and they'll go, there's footage of him doing them signs and everything.
We're all sat there like that.
And you just don't give a crap after a while, do you?
It's a yoga sign. But just going back to the name then, Callie or Carly.
Yeah.
So that is a deity, yeah? It's of destruction, did you say?
Yeah, she gets a bad rap, really, because she's actually, destruction can have positive forms. It's, if you...
It makes way for new to grow,
yeah,
doesn't
exactly. There's the famous, song, Om Kali 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 Om Namo, whatever, and it says burn it all away. So, you're burning out old or destroying the old parts of you that no longer serve you. So it's, she's not kind of like, she is. I mean, when I was on the shrooms, she was coming at me with the tongue and Buddha and all kinds of stuff. And
so do you believe in like deities and things like this?
It's difficult. Yes, because I've seen them, but then it's kind of, I'm told by, people who believe in the scripture, as it is, that's, demonic forces presenting themselves as light beings. And I'm like, again, look, we don't know. At the end of the day, all these books are presented to us. I'm not saying Jesus didn't exist or he was Yeshua I used to read these books called The Law of One, and it says that Jesus was a galactic. He was a fourth dimensional entity who came down to, he martyred himself basically, because he had so much compassion. Because 3D apparently is the, the density of choice, whereas 4D is the density of compassion, because once you kind of ascend to 4D, or transcend to 4D, that's the density of compassion, and the veil is lifted there. So self as other self, so you're so compassionate for each other, man. And then in the fifth density, it's tempered with wisdom. That's where you learn to temper compassion with wisdom, and then you go to the sixth, which is light, and seventh. Anyway, so I think everything is, and this is just me, that it is multidimensional. I've opened portals, I've seen light beings, I've seen ghosts, I've seen all kinds of unusual stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't
but they're your experiences.
I can't show the people those experiences, and I think it's an individual journey, because someone says to me, but I've seen Jesus and he anointed me, Now I said in the Law of One, it says, whether the Law of One's correct or not, it may just be some book created by AI for all I know, but it says you will have a visitation, so to speak, in the manner to which will be most meaningful for you. So I had the spaceship and the three light beings. Now, that was very meaningful for me at the time, and they won't interfere with your own free will, so you have to kind of have got it, and it's a long story. I kind of won't bore you with unless you want me to, but that night I got it, and I got this visitation. And somebody has said, but I saw Christ. I said, well, you will. Because if that comforts you and that's what you want to see, and that represents that spirituality and that love and that, for you, then that's what you'll get shown. It's like my nana used to say, we're all trying to get to the same place on a different buzz.
Definitely.
And it's the language that, again, do you remember the Tower of Babel? It's the language that divides us.
And it's interesting that because...
I don't believe in me light beings, it's energy.
Yeah,
I've been told, and I've known this from speaking to other people as well. So a lot of people they say like, if you think of like angels, right? So a lot of people think Archangel Michael, massive figure with a sword and a shield. So how else would he come through to you if that's your thought of it, right? Yeah. So he's not going to come through like a wrinkly old man and go, "Oh, I'm Michael."
and it's in the collective consciousness, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So scripture. So shit's getting biblical, right? Because it is. So really, we are co-creating that. Now they give us the script and we project the movie.
Yeah.
You know.
But I'll tell you what I like, Carly. So like in my experiences, so when I was younger, I didn't know. So I mean, I've had my own experiences where you want to call it Jesus coming and everything else, which was unbelievable. But anyway, so I was having a session of healing off these two Reiki healers once, right? And I ended up sort of, I have problems like letting myself go and trusting, and just going with it. Like I did whatever. Anyway, but on this occasion, I thought, I was quite relaxed and blah, blah, blah. And I must have been in that, like, semi-state where I'm sort of drifting away and blah, blah, blah. And then I felt like I was sort of, the clouds were all around me, lovely white energy and everything else. And then out of the energy, this hand come down, right? And it was a female hand, and it was green, right? And she took my hand and pulled me up onto the clouds. And I looked at her, and she was beautiful and everything else, right? I'd never seen anything like that in my life, right? Then she walked me forward, and then before I knew it, I was at the feet, and because that's all I could see at the beginning were these massive feet, right? And they were elephants' feet, right? And then as I looked up, sat before me, or like as I'm stood there, even before me, and this was Ganesh. But this is the thing is, I didn't know who Ganesh was or what it was, right? So because so if you're brought up and you went to a school and you know about Christ and everything else, and then you had a spiritual experience and Christ come through, I think you could rationalise that. But because I was having something what I didn't know it was, right? So anyway, so I went with it, and what he did was he gave me 3 gifts for the people who were giving me the healing, and he gave them like some messages, right? And anyway, so I come back, and after I told them all about it, and then Sean, the fella who was involved, not my mate Sean, another Sean, he put it up on his computer, and he went, was it that woman, Kev? And I went, yeah. And I went, no way. And it was this woman called Lady Green Tara, right? But I'd never, ever come across that, right? Yeah. So I'm like, well, how the fuck can you show me something that I have no previous consciousness knowledge of? Yeah. And then he went, is that the thing, Kev? And I went, yeah. And he went, that's Ganesh. And I went, fuck off. So this got me into like, well, who's Ganesh? And that's, in fact, I've got a blanket what someone bought me, and it's because of that experience I had. Now, then what I learned was Ganesh was the deity of removing blockages. So anytime you've got blockages in your life or obstacles, call on the Master Ganesh. He'll help move them. And what it was, it didn't sound a lot. So he gave me like one of the gifts was a pomegranate for the person. But then when we looked it up, it was so meaningful because apparently the seed and the honeycomb shapes of a pomegranate is just phenomenal in itself. And he gave the other one, so the lady who was healing me, he gave me a yellow rose, and he just said, tell her a mom she got the rose. Aww. And when I asked her, apparently she's not long lost a mom, and she said, I put a yellow rose on her.
Wow.
And so and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So
it's a pretty cool game we're in here. Really.
It's just like
it.
But now this is what's interesting. So I've never, even though I probably might have come across it. So the other day when we had this Dave in the kitchen, do you remember I tell you? I could feel energy around him, but the energy I felt was Shiva. Right. And so I looked up after. Well, who's Shiva? What does he do? And then apparently, but that's Ganesh's dad. Right.
And Shiva's outside CERN.
And I was going to ask you before, what is Shiva about? Because
I know enough, but I think the actual statue is Shiva in a gateway, like a stargate, isn't it? So, but what that represents in any great detail or depth, I'm not sure. But I think he's linked to destroying or destruction or I don't know.
I'm like, all I know is there'll be a reason why energy was making me feel that energy of that deity or whatever around him. And he was a very special fella. You could tell he had something going on. He was, but it's no coincidence he wasn't prepared to put up with any of this world bullshit.
No, he's not.
Well, I think in that multi-dimensional thing, it's like it goes back to, you know, like in Interstellar where, you know, he comes outside and there's the Tesseract and she's in the Tesseract and he's pushing the books from the other side, isn't he?
Yeah.
And she's drawn him back with love. And what's the time? How does he talk to her? Time.
He does, yeah.
It's all about time. And in fact, most of Christopher Nolan's films are about time. Got like, you know, Inception or, you know, Tenet. I love his films. Even The Black Knight. You know,
the Dark Knight is the Dark Knight.
Do you think these people, like Christopher Nolan, do you think they're sort of onto stuff or they know?
Yeah, I mean, Interstellar is probably my favourite film. Yeah, it's all in the, you know, this prison of time, and he shows that tesseract, you know, and it shows that relativity in it. You know, when he moves away from the Earth, even when they go down to that planet, they've been down there like 6 hours and they've aged 30 odd up there, haven't they?
Inception's good for that, isn't it?
That in that cube, that 3D or the 4D tesseract, you know, they're experiencing space-time. Outside of that is time-space. So I tattooed quite a lot of the answers on myself over the years without even realising it. I've got the Ouroboros on me, I've got infinity, and I think that's might have been my subconscious telling me the answer.
Wow.
So that I can...
Interesting.
Wake up. Wake yourself up, you know. Those films are, you know, so heavily coded with the answers. And like I say, you know, when I went off-world, as we say, you know, and those little spaceships, it's weird that this, as beautiful as this Earth is, or this hyperdimensional whatever we're in, it's not reality in a sense. It's, you know, I always see it as dark with fluorescent luminous lights. You know, off-world looks very much like that. You know, this kind of dream state in this tesseract or this cube or this, you know, kind of controlled by Father Time is, you know, it's weird. It's definitely illusory of some kind, I think, you know, but...
Do you reckon that we all carry tesseracts ourselves and you can sort of like upside down, I think they connect, and then you can spin it as a macabre. They talk about this macabre that you... And then that's another... I mean, I don't know enough about it. Sacred geometry,
So what I was up till about 2-3 o'clock the other morning because I ended up started watching a film and it was the new Blade Runner.
Oh, right.
But that was pretty deep as
that.
fuck. There's a lot of that was, but almost like the future of what's coming if you're not careful, because it was all like AI, robotic, not real humans anymore. There was no pregnancies allowed anymore. It was very. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think it's an attack on the creator?
Yeah, I think that's, you know, and we asked this yesterday, well, what are they imprinting this Merkaba on or this Tesseract on top of? What are they inverting? And I think that is the creator. You know, there's only one infinite creator as per the Law of One books. But what you get then is sub-logos, they call them. So like demigods and then demigods and demi. So actually, you know, Yahweh was actually just like quite a low-down demigod, really, who kind of, you know, in the Law of One, it says that he made a deal with the Luciferic consciousness, which was a positive six-density social memory complex that came down here, made a deal with Yahweh to say, I'll come and offer the polarity of darkness, because it's working in loads of other of our experiments. And Yahweh went, my children will never choose it, you know, but offer it them. And we were offered it and we chose, and the veil came down and he was wrathful, and the floods and everything else, because obviously he's watching all his children fornicate with these fallen angels and all this stuff, you know, and he was like, then the floods came and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I believe in the creator, you know, but again, you know, believe's got lie in it, hasn't it? You know, it's subjective, isn't it? And as long as they keep us fighting over these narratives, who's right, who's wrong, you know, I think we are co-creators, hence why, you know, with, you know, the biblical thing, the scripture thing, if we think it we can make it. You know, like I said yesterday, you know, if we want to move Mount Everest to Bolton, if everyone on the planet or in this collective consciousness decided that, we could do it. We could move mountains that way. So it's all about controlling that narrative on that stage for them. So we're all sat there watching it, going, instead of realising actually we're creating it. And projecting it, and it's Plato's cave, isn't it? You know, we're all chained, or we think that we're chained in this cave, and we think that this is real. But actually, we're going, hang on a minute, the exit's there. We've just been looking in the wrong way, you know. So it's like that to this.
When you're talking like this, I started thinking about the pyramids.
Yeah.
And the way that the pyramids are obviously, they must have, there's no way on earth, is it, that, you know, we physically were moving those things. No. So, you know, we're beings there moving those by thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, when we're talking Tesseract, so that you've got that there. Is there another one underneath?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's Inner worlds, isn't it? You know, someone was I was talking about this the other day, and they said they'll send me a book on it. My friend Kira, actually. And she said, oh my God, you've got to read this book. Because I was having this thing about wanting to go to Bhutan. Now, Bhutan, I think, my geography is terrible, but it's kind of like Tibet, China, over there somewhere. But you used to have to get a licence. They wouldn't let you in if you... I don't know whether that's changed now. And they won't let you just wander around. You've got to go with a guide. And I was thinking, Now, you get like films like Doctor Strange, you know, where they go... Why were these monasteries built?
Yeah.
Way up high with these kind of, you know, kung fu. It's not kung fu, is it? Martial art kind of Buddhist monks or whatever. What were they protecting? What were they guarding? You know, and I think there are these portals or these gateways, these natural portals and gateways, and maybe there is a civilization in the inner earth. Maybe this is just more narratives that they just, you know, get us deep diving to distract us again. I mean, who knows, you know. But I certainly think the portals are within. But I also think that they are out. They are here as well. You know, that you can access them. It's one of my ideas. We should all just get a little convoy and go portal hunting.
That'd be we could film that. We could do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we had Linda Scott in, didn't we? And she turned around and she went. She was quite deep, you know, just very rascal. And but she went. Do you think it's a coincidence you called Atlantis? Right, and I went,
oh yeah,
and then she went, and do you think it's a coincidence the factory opposite you is called Iris?
Oh yeah,
right, and she said, and do you realise in the middle of the car park there's a portal? Right, she said, go and sit round that with a few people and do a meditation, and she went, see what fucking happens.
Oh my days.
And it's like, and she went, and she was just went
Leader,
deep into
on Drake,
it.
Michigan.
I know. We all disappear into a portal.
You can get the frequencies, can't you? You like put on certain frequencies and then you can open them up. Well,
it would be interesting to fuck around with it, wouldn't it? And just, hey.
Then obviously he's got another business called Apollo Windows and Doors. But then this studio is going to be called Tartaria.
Oh yeah, you said.
So well, obviously, I mean, to be fair, this is called Tartaria because of everything else. So to be fair, I've consciously thought of this one.
Yeah, sure.
But it is based on the rise of empires that have been lost in the past.
Yeah.
Because I like that kind of thing. And also, and I've said this many times, I don't want to keep boring people with it. So like, I went and saw this angel woman back in the day and everything else. Yeah. And she basically said to me, oh, you were Genghis Khan in a former life, right? Which I thought was hilarious, right? But then she absolutely like blew me away.
Yeah.
Because in the next breath, like, because at the time I just laughed it off and just thought, fucking yeah, of course I was, right? You know what I mean? But then she went, I bet you've got a scar all up your penis, right? And I went, how the fuck would you know that? Yeah. Right? Like, you couldn't have known that. I've only just met you for the first time. And then,
it takes at least an hour before you wake up.
I don't just get it out for everyone.
And it gets you a drink first.
Yeah. Because I was probably thick. I probably never even heard of Genghis Khan, but you know, like, well, anyway. But then she went, oh, he was killed by basically a woman wanted to marry him.
Yeah.
No, sorry. He was going to marry this woman, but she was in love with another whatever. Right. So, in as the story goes, on the wedding night, she took a knife, stuck a knife in a nightie, and she slit him straight up the right. He bled out, went into a coma, and never woke up. She threw herself off the building and killed herself. Right. So then this angel woman said, "You would have bought this through from former lives." Right? She said, so I guarantee you'll have... And I was like... But
I'm looking now.
Yeah. I'll show you after, Kelly. I was telling someone the other day, so the thing is, but at the age of about 6...
Yeah.
I started my first operation where I had, and I spent most of my childhood in hospital. I had to have complete reconstructive surgery. When I was older, I had a thing called BXO, which was described as a type of cancer. I had to have a skin graft where they took all the skin out of my mouth and they rebuilt me, if you like. I'm like the Bionic Man.
Wow.
And but the thing is,
like that.
Yeah. After all that work,
they call him Ganesh.
Yeah. After all that work, now I've got 3 inches.
It's all making sense.
Anyway, it's Satan's wand. But the thing is, what got me is she couldn't have fucking known.
Yeah.
Right. And what's the chances of the coincidence? Anyway, so that made me think. Is she fucking onto something, or does she know something I don't know? But anyway, I've lost track of where we was there.
It is an amazing game, though. There's so many. The journey, the experience, everyone's individual experience is just incredible. That's why these podcasts are so entertaining. You'll learn so much, and the conversations are just.
Well, the thing is, we'll probably end up with Callie like several times because we need to go into each.
I'd love to.
We need to go deep on each subject. So, like, what we need to say is, right, this is what we're talking about today, and let's just talk about that because we want to know everything about you and your journey, but we also want to have them. But what we said was that's where Michigan Mouth will come in because we've got the podcast for the guests, so it's important we talk with the guest about your story, if you like. But then we want the Michigan Mouth, which is on the couch talking about these type of subjects, so we can go a bit deeper. Do you know what I mean? Good, and I think that's the way we have to take it because I think people will love it. Because
time in itself, like I've started like really heavily researching, and I've just got paid. I could talk about it. That's just hours on its own, But yeah, certainly genealogy. I mean, like I find out that Canada used to be called Canaan itself, so it goes back to the Canaanites, which were the mixed breed or hybrid bloodlines, came from Cain and Abel. Now, Old Khazaria, the Ukraine was Old Khazaria, which was also called Canaanite. So Canada means I am Canaan. And Old Khazaria, the Ukraine, is obviously, where the biolabs are.
Yeah.
But that was Canaan. That was Canaanite from where the Slavic countries come, Yugoslavia, slave country.
See, we need to talk about all this because I've only little bits and I want to find out more because apparently there's, Russia, there is certain souls apparently that live on Russia. It's like a really important land piece, area. There's certain angel statues, like a history. So and I'm wondering, is that why they're trying to attack it, or they're trying to start a war? And then I've heard bits where England or Angel Land, apparently this is quite important. Scotland's supposed to be quite important. So we need to delve into this as well. And maybe when we have these chats, bring Angel Land.
And actually they were quite famous here for giantism. Which is obviously Nephilim. So again, and during the Reformation, there was a lot of, you've got to think of like the, original humans to the earth plane or whatever this corpus hypercubus is. But during the Reformation, they painted a lot of powerful black people's faces in the paintings white. They whited them. So this idea that, the blacks, we were all slaves, but, the fact that, they've just gone around and redone history and represented it, which is, go back to Tartaria and things like that. We didn't build those buildings. Hang on a minute. Our history isn't linear. This doesn't make sense. And all, deep diving, all those kind of things. It's just so interesting.
And we're learning all this now. And even under the oceans, there's like cities and statues and maybe the old giant thing, because then if we did have giants, if you like, or the what are they called? The necrophilia?
Nephilim, Titans, giants.
That's Jimmy Savile's back.
That's a different podcast.
That's the darkness coming back. But then things like Stonehenge and these big structures would make sense because they wouldn't be big if you were a giant, would they? They would just... I don't know. And
I think it's that time travel thing, once we get into time and once we realise that, it's frequencies as well. So say like, your mum coming back and giving you those informations or different, entities that you're tuning in with. It's like, it's like old analogue telly, innit? Some people are still on analogue and we're all hopping over to digital so we can just see different, it's just frequency. Exactly. We're just tuning in. I mean, if you listen, I don't know if you go on like the Nazis, at NASA, but they you can listen to the sound of Saturn and it's this dead eerie sound, and actually you can also look there was a hexagon shape on Saturn, and a hexagon is a 3D.
That's right. It's on the top of Saturn, isn't it?
Yeah, the images of it, if that's real. Don't speak to flat Earth, round Earth. I stay away from it because I don't know enough about it. But it's kind of like
I'm interested to talk about it, but I don't.
Yeah, because I want to. I was going to ask you about that because I've heard, like, obviously this is all quite new to me. So there's people who believe obviously in flat Earth, right? You know, so we've got to have that platform where we have that conversation. Why, you know what I mean? And dispel or prove or whatever.
What's interesting is if you get, you know, astronomy equipment now that is so advanced for, you know, rookie astronomers, I can't think of the word, but my friend Johnny, like, you know, he's so aware, you have to get him on. Oh God, he's off the charts. We have these amazing conversations about this stuff, but he believes the planets are spherical, they're round. He's seen them through telescopes, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, well, what if the illusion or this matrix extends to that, you know, in the Tesseract, they incorporate that we can see that. And he's just like, you know, and I'm just like, we don't know, do it? Like, so until you kind of fly me out of here and, you know, you can observe.
But then, then you've got the people who talk about the firmament, is it? The firmament, right? And then you have people like Hillary Clinton and all these, and they're on record, and we need to smash the glass ceiling, we need to get through it. And then you've got consciousness, and you've got Elon Musk saying we need to get to Mars, and he keeps sending these rockets up, and these are
stage.
We've got to have these conversations.
I love chatting about it.
It's really interesting. And also but coming back to time as well, so I've had experiences in my life. So like my spirit guide at the time, who was Benjamin Drake, which is where Drake comes from.
I was going to ask that.
So basically, and this is how all the dots are coming together, right? So we're still trying to get to the bottom of Michigan, even though I've got some things I've not. But then Dave, who was only here the other day, he literally turned around and went, "Do you not know about Michigan and what's there?" And I went,
"Talk about the dumbs."
Right, and he's like, you need to, and I'll be like, so that's something else I've got to learn. But so basically what happened is I had a spirit guide coming through to me in my spiritual experiences called Benjamin A. Drake, right? Cool. Now, the thing was with that, was great to come through, loads of information, blah, blah, blah. But then we tried to get in touch with his family. And they were like, we're not into this. They were born again Christians and blah, blah, blah. And we're not into that. But then they turned around and went, by the way, he's not dead, right? And he was in a coma.
Wow.
Right? So I'm like, what the fuck? Right? So is it, you know, is his spirit or soul or what happened? Now, and then the other thing is, 3 weeks before my dad died, because we'd had a fallout, my dad visited me 3 nights running.
Wow.
Right? And said on the third day, he said, 3 weeks today, you're going to be angry as fuck. And I woke my missus up during the night and I said, my dad's in the room. But he wasn't dead at that time. He was on life support. Right? But I didn't know he was on life support because I'd fell out with my family back at home and all the rest of it. And then it was only 3 weeks later when I got the phone call off my brother saying, oh, do you know Dad's dead? And I'm like, what the fuck? So this whole thing of time and what's going on and we've also been speaking to people lately who reckon like, so that Mark Steele talked about the Matrix splitting in front of his eyes and he was seeing stuff.
I've not watched that one yet. I want to watch it.
I tell you what, it was such a good chat, you know.
Because obviously we thought it was all just going to be about 5G and that's quite deep for people to take, you know. And you might have thought it was going to be doom and gloom.
It was a spiritual chat.
It wasn't.
Really.
Do you know what? His actual message was, people need to pray. You need to raise your consciousness. You need to stop thinking negative. You need to be positive. Love. He come back to that which we wasn't expecting that from him, which was great.
It was brilliant.
But let's just go back to, because you mentioned before, like, so you've had experiences yourself with. So tell us a little bit about.
Well, I was one of the biggest ones, I suppose, was like I was reading The Law of One, these books, and if you're into they're almost like quantum mechanical handbooks, like for, you know, time, space, time. It's like, you know, they're intricate, but they're amazing. I mean, even back then, say 10 years ago, I was like literally reading a paragraph and then going, staring at the wall for 5 minutes and then rereading it, you know. And now, obviously, you know, it kind of, you know, I can rhyme it off like that. But I kind of got it that day, you know, when something just clicks. And I for some reason, I was on a train, I'd been down at my mum's, and I don't know why I didn't have a car at the time, which is quite unusual for me. But I just kind of got it. And there's 5 books in this series, but I was about halfway through book 1. Anyway, I get home, and our house was always like a little bit of a party house. I live with a girl called Jen. I get in, and there's a barbecue on, you know, it's nice weather, and I'm just like, you know, anyway, I had a couple of beers, which is, you know, I like a good party. So that's unusual for me. I was just dead chilled. I don't know what it was. I just had this real peaceful feeling, and I was just like, I'm going to go to bed. And everyone's going, are you all right? And I went, yeah. So I went to bed, and I went to sleep, and I can only kind of describe it as like, you know, like stronger than a lucid dream, but almost like, you know, they call it thought form in the Law of One. So almost like the dream was interrupted, because obviously entities, sixth density entities, don't need to travel in the physical. It's this. So it was almost like, you know, like a radio frequency, like my dream was interrupted. And I was in like I could feel that I was in a sleep paralysis, but it was like it was as real as I am looking at this room now. And there was 3 light beings at the end of the bed, and there was a big bell-shaped craft outside the house. Now, obviously, there wasn't a big bell-shaped craft outside the house, because I lived in a terrace house opposite terrace houses in Preston. So it would have been fairly impossible for it to be there. But, you know, it was as real as I'm talking to you now, but I was still. And I remember thinking, what the fuck is this? Like, in my head, I'm just thinking, what? And it just went, wow. There was this, like, noise, like, wow, 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 wow. And there was this noise. It must have been about 34, this is. And they just said, we have come to show you. But it was like, wow, wow, we have come to show, wow, 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 wow. And there's one big, and it tall, like, just human figure, but just light. And there's 2 behind him. And he chucked up this prism, and this prism went, and it just span, and on each kind of face of the prism as it span, and obviously it was going to my head, into my, you know, pineal gland or whatever. It just showed me the last 10,000 years of existence, or as I can ascertain that how long I've been here. So they were saying, you've been here this long, because I'd woke up that day too. I was awake anyway, but more so. And because they can't interfere with free will, of course. So, and then it just went, whoop, and the whole thing kind of went, and I went, oh, what was that? And anyway, the guy I was seeing at the time, he'd introduced me to the Law of One, but it's just like 4 a.m. or whatever it was. So I just wrote it all down, and I wrote it on Messenger on you know, Facebook. So he wakes up in the morning, he's like, oh my God, Jill. And anyway, so he sends me a passage out of book 3, which is like, you know, the book I've not got to, and it literally describes like what
everything what's happened.
Not the prism, but saying, you know, wanderers, if you're not from here, and that's why, you know, I say, you know, I'm a bit of a from future timeline past. I am really Atlantis as well for me as well. And I think Atlantis was a time period more than an actual place in essence, which is, they're all time periods, aren't they? It's not like, that's why our history isn't linear and doesn't make sense. But yeah, and it said, you know, if you were a wanderer, you will potentially have a visitation, and they will come to you in the manner to which means the most to you. So like, I was just like, and then I was really up my own arse about it, like for ages, going, I'm not from here. Which I bet you know my higher self's going, oh. So I pulled that off for a couple of years, yes, beneath me. So I had that experience, which was massive. And the other one was, obviously, my sister died when I was younger. Now, I always found it interesting that I never had a visitation. I had lots of all these interesting experiences, nothing ever from my sister. And maybe that was part of the suppression of it and varying things, but... and I have to say, for this one, I had drunk a lot of rum this night, and I was with the guy I was seeing at the time. But then he said, all of a sudden, and I remember it clear as day, and I could handle my booze back then more, like I don't really drink anymore now, so I quit it. For the ascension, for the transcendence, you know. But I was, you know, I have to say for this one, I was pretty tuned in. But I dropped to my knees, and Andrew just said, he stood back and he was like, "What the fuck's going on?" Like he could feel, you know. He said all his hair stood up on his arms, and this tear, I would say, in space time just opened, whoomp. And this is my sister, who obviously died when I was like 11. She just stepped through. Now, someone could say, yeah, you just pissed out your face, Jill, shut up. But it wasn't that, you know.
I don't think you have experiences like that with rum.
No.
I've been hammered on rum, and I've never...
No, it's more like puking in the bog in the morning as well after a bottle of rum. But yeah, and she was in white, as you'd expect, probably. And she just telepathically said to me, let it go. Like, you know, basically that we planned this, let it go, you know, because I wasn't letting that go. I wasn't letting that shit go. I'm not letting that shit go. That's part of my fight in the system, really. That's been, you know, until I learned to let it go. And anyway, I kind of went, no. Like I was saying, no, I'm not letting you go. Because I was thinking I was letting her go. So I'm going, no. But she was saying, you know, I worked out years later, let it go isn't let her go. You can't let, you know, that go. But I think, you know, and I, you know, watched Interstellar years later, but love... that connection for me to her was, I drew her through, or maybe because I'm thinking she's dead, and I was like, but what if I'm dead? And she's like, it's all states of being again. So she kind of came through. So that was the other big experience, which was like, whoa, I opened that portal with love. It transcended time. So, and I was to Andrew at the time, I was really upset afterwards, and he was like, what the hell? And I said, oh my God, I've kept her here, because it's like 20 years later from when, she did die. And he says, no, because he says it's relative. He says, so, 20 years down here is 2 seconds, 2 minutes up there, he says, because I was like mortified thinking I've kept her here from my grief, not by not letting it go. And he said, and so that kind of made me feel better. And so that's why that's what that tattoo, I had that done after that. But then that, as I've got older, has just made more and more sense, And I've had I was at Spellfest when we put the festival on.
Yeah.
And the psychic one, we all sat around the fire. It was before the festival kind of officially started, because we were up there for days, of course, before setting it up. It was an energy harvest of epic proportions. We may be doing it next year, but we've decided to have a follow year, because it did take a lot from us. But yeah, I was sat around this fire with this woman, and she went, what people are like, I've got a message. They're on wine, I've got a message. She's sister, so I kind of perked up. And she said, let it go. And I went, oh. And I had another psychic not that long ago say exactly the same thing to me. Your sister says, let it go. And I went, whoa, because I still haven't let it go. And this last year, perhaps, it's been a big lot of having to let stuff go.
Yeah. Definitely.
And that's a big thing we talk about. But if we're clever with the editing after, right, I've got a message coming through for you.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, it's your sister. She said, let it go.
It was like that little naive child in me going,
but if we edit that after, it'll look like we've
put it before. Oh, you sneaky
really shit editing of it. Let it go.
Chill, let it go.
How do you think these mediums on telly do it? Fucking bullshit.
Well, funnily enough, my ex all the time used to say to me, let it go. It used to be a standing joke, let it go. So almost like, I think you create these characters. We can manifest the heroes, and we can manifest the villains.
Definitely.
And he'd been saying the same message to me. Let it go.
Yeah. I mean, they even sung it in Frozen, didn't they?
Yeah,
just let it fucking go. But no, because it's funny, because we since we started this, we've had It's Time, Let It Go. Yeah. So we've had like certain words that are really important, and because it all comes back to the person individually changing, and also having to let it go and just go with it. Yeah. These are key things in people's developments.
Letting it go, letting shit go is hard.
Very difficult
from trauma, and because give me a pain that I'm used to, as Depeche Mode would say. One of our favourite bands, isn't it? When you sent me that cover, when they decoded all the covers of Depeche Mode. It's like not the mode. Speak and spell and but people get used to you hold on to that trauma. It becomes comfortable, doesn't it? Yeah. And to unpick it, to untie the knots that we've tied in ourselves, and that society's. Fucking hell, you're born into a demonic shit show, and you have to work this shit out, and then heal all your trauma, and then still be a nice person.
What the annoying thing is for me, Callie, is I was always shit at games. Always. It's like where I'm nearly pushing 50-year-old, and I still haven't got a fucking clue.
I always come at it from a different angle, because it's like, and this is no shit. So like, I listen to everyone, and they go, "Oh, I've got this trauma and that trauma," and but I can't give a fucking shit, me. Right? No, but I just don't. I don't have emotions or feelings. I'm probably fucking psychotic. I know. I'm a fucking psycho.
You did have the dark plan before.
I was gonna say you don't like dark.
I don't hold on to nothing. Like even my dad dying, I just like, okay, done. Right, that happened to you. Right, done.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying I was always like that.
Yeah.
I think that happened. So I did a bit of work back in the day, mirror work, shadow work, and all that 15 years ago. But back then, when I started learning stuff, I literally was like, I get this. Yeah. It's fucking pointless holding on to that shit. So just let it go. But I learned with manifestation as well. When you let it all go and just let everything flow, the miracles started coming into your life. So like, I found happiness when I had absolutely nothing. And then everything else was just a fucking doddle after that. Because it was like, well, if you can be happy when you got fuck all, what the fuck? So then everything else just started to flow. And now I don't really put any energy into... Like even the Drake Michigan thing. I mean, I've got to be honest, we're 3-4 months in. I've never put any energy into this fucking thing in my life. It just flows. I just let everybody else do it. And then it's like, and it just keeps growing, and we keep having better and fantastic guests and great conversations, and it's just flowing into it. It's just great.
It's creating, isn't it? That is the key. You know, if you're in, and I don't even like to sound nippy dippy, but it's so true. If you're in fear or you're in trauma or you are just in the lower vibrations, man. And, you know, even listening to me say it, I'm like, oh no, because it's like when we did Spellfest, I'm like, oh guinea pigs. But I think I'm on the turn. But it's kind of like, it just is that, isn't it? Once you're kind of healed and you're just giving out love and you're letting go with the flow, putting energy into stuff, creating. You know, it's like kind of that. Oh please, you know, Lord Baal, help me win the lottery. Well, at least buy a ticket, son. Give me, so you've got to kind of put that, you know, energy into stuff. But if it's positive and it's creative, then just let go of all the other stuff. It'll just.
That's right.
Trust the universe.
Yeah, I agree with that, because ultimately, like. It's just pointless energy, isn't it? So like you could you could sort of like go down rabbit holes and blah blah blah, but then ultimately, well, what are you going to get from it? Just what's the point? Do you know what I mean?
They're constantly getting us to look at it. Keep looking at their game. It's their game.
Yeah.
You know, so we create the game for them. You're born in sin. In the beginning was the word. You know, the trap of language. You're born into sin. Sin is the sine wave of time.
Yeah.
You know, just work that game out and go. All right, yeah.
And then what is it with Adam and Eve? So is it atom?
The atom.
So a lot of people, to be fair to people as well, so like the first, I don't know, 15, 16 years of your life, you're brought up by your parents and everything else. So like say you were born and then your parents were Catholic and you've done things as a kid. That really wasn't even your fault, really, is it? Because you've had someone else's teachings put up on you. So you've got to free yourself from that before you can...
Hence the game, hence how difficult the game is. It's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not going to make it easy.
No, not at all. You want to go home, you're going to have to find your way, the labyrinth, you've got to find your way home.
Everything I've done for you.
Exactly,
I moved the stars for no one.
She loves it.
We've got a lot of wigs and costumes.
I know.
Oh my God, that'd be a great one.
Well, I was going to say to you before, because one of our skits coming up, and you'll have to make sure you're part of it as well. So it's called Act. Right, and so it's called Anonymous Conspiracy Theorists, right? So we're going to have like a Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And everyone will have their own character, but you have to come with your own conspiracy theory. So like yours could literally be like, I believe it's on a cube, and the teacher will be like, he's the tinfoil hat, you know? It's like, you silly person, right? But what it'll be a great way of sort of spreading truth and knowledge, but under the disguise of I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm suffering with it.
Again, it's about not taking things so seriously all the time and enjoy. We're here to enjoy.
Well, I think that's what you guys do in your interviews and stuff. You know, it's like it's nice just to have it's a laugh, isn't it? You know, you're not feeling like you're being put on the spot or anything. No. It's like and you bring out
we're like
that
a crap,
different side of people. Like say with Mark Steele, you might just get him up talking about 5G, but you get other stuff out of people.
Well, it was amazing when you talk about that particular chat, because obviously Kevin not heard of Mark before, but we've seen videos of Mark over the years, and Mark's quite serious.
Big name, big serious.
But he's serious in his demeanour. We had him laughing from the minute. It was great.
But I think, and it's not been done by purpose, but I think the way our interviews come across and like we have a laugh is to hide our lack of fucking knowledge. Right. It's because we're thick as fuck. so we just have to pretend to make them laugh and get them to tell us.
No, I don't believe it.
We've not got a clue, really.
No, it's a skill set. You'll have to take the compliments, guys.
I'm taking it.
Take it. But it's that's it. Just start having fun with it. Just enjoy your life. You've worked it out. You've healed your trauma. Just start having a laugh at the whole thing now. And then that's
well, we said that when we started this off. It's time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's time for Drake. The Drake Michigan thing is to help people in some shape or form. How they resonate with the chat, and they take from that. That's great. Raising consciousness, but having fun as well.
I tell you what I love is because obviously, and we need to get back to it as well because we've the whole process of today's podcast guest and interview, if you like, we wanted to get into the whole sovereignty, and the one thing we've not really talked about is the sovereignty, but that's the depth of people and the guests, because you've got so many other things to share with us and your knowledge and experiences, and then I think that makes it even more interesting.
And I think it's the more fun bit, like, you know, I think people are aware of the legal fiction. People know, I can talk about that. It's like when I was talking to Anne about what products we'll talk about, I said, well, there's so much other stuff we can talk about. It's more fun to do the other stuff. If people want to kind of come and find me and Andy and learn about the mortgages and get rid of your debts, come and find us, and that's the boring bit really, but we can help with that.
But just spending a moment on that, because just so people do know, so is that your day-to-day life? Are you supporting and helping people with all the because I think Andy's doing the mortgage, but are you doing something else, like to do with debt or something?
I am doing the mortgage stuff with Andy, so we're both doing the no-win, no-fee mortgage. So if you come and you want to learn more about that, it'll be both of us on there. And then of course we're going to be doing our own stuff. I have a new group called Dispelling Debt, so I'm getting rid of debt collectors for people, really. You know, loans, things like that, because as we know, they don't loan you anything, and it's just a case of asking.
So can you just tell us a little bit about that, please? Because say someone's like got behind, and you know they had some Wonga loans or whatever, and they've got behind now. They've got the debt collectors. They've got the threatening letters saying we're going to do this, this, and this. So do you come in then and you can help them at that process? So what happens? Tell us.
Well, debt's a fiction, as we know, because obviously fiat currency, fiat in legalese is fake, means fake. So, you know, fractional reserve lending, yada, yada, yada. You know, when you sign the credit agreement, you're in effect signing a promissory note. So you create the credit. So under the Uniform Commercial Code, that loan note is an asset to you. You are the creditor. Only us as living men and women can create. You know, Barclays Bank is a corporate fiction. It's a dead speak fiction, and they need to speak to the dead. So they trick you basically into handing that over, gifting it to them in effect, and leaving you with a debt on this side of the ledger. Like I say, you know, the game of Monopoly, they'll get you pushing around an old shoe. But really, who's the most powerful player in the game? It's the banker. And what they're not telling you is that you're the banker, and they're making you the debtor at all times. So debt's a funny thing. It's from the perspective of the banks, you owe it. No, actually, you know, it's basically like I like to use the mugger analogy. It's like someone coming punching you in the face and stealing £500 out of your wallet, and then coming back and saying, I'll loan you this back with interest, but you've got to give it me back within you know, hang on a minute, it's my money it's mine. You know, it's literally that. So when a bank or a debt collector is making a claim you owe, well, they've just made a claim. So we ask them to validate said claim. Okay, so we ask them for the full accounting. They'll send you a statement of account, but it's not the same thing. You know, so the full accounting would be, you know, them showing that they've never loaned you anything in the first place. So they don't want to show you that. Now, if they've assigned that loan to a debt collector, say the debt collector has bought the debt, how can you buy debt with debt? How can you buy fiction with fiction? It doesn't exist. And the way that it should be assigned, you know, properly under the Law of Property Act, things like that, they should sign, you know, the assignment. But no one's ever going to put their name onto that. I'll take liability for those documents because it's fraud at the end of the day. You know, it's only fraud if we join in technically without going too deep. But basically, you know, it doesn't exist. And they don't have the document to show that they've assigned it to a debt collector either. So what I do is go, okay, I'd like to see your deed of assignment. I'd like to see your signed notice of assignment. So they'll send me a notice of assignment, but it won't be signed. And I go, well, that's not a signed notice, you know, and it's just knowing what the tricks that they're doing. Wow. And it's all, you know, postal fraud as well, because there's PO boxes, that's all coming from PO boxes, which are non-contracting land venues, and, you know, we're too boring. You know, we can get all the tricks. We can get rid of it. So credit cards, you know, promissory notes, you know, you could write your own promissory note and discharge those loans with, say, a promissory note under the bills of exchange, things like that, because we are creditors and we can discharge. We are beneficiaries of our own trusts. Your birth certificate is a bond, it's a trust. And it's, you know, shared on the stock market because we are the stock. And the beat goes on, you know. So when you kind of understand debt, really, and how debt works, That's kind of what we can do potentially, just to make people's lives easier. Because if you're in debt and you've got, we've all been there,
it's pressure.
It's awful, isn't it? And the thing is, it's all fraud. All mortgages, all loans, even all debt collectors, they're just the parasites of that world, I mean, I was looking at a forensic audit. A forensic audit is something that we ask for if you want to get rid of your mortgage, because it shows what we call securitization behind the scenes, which is basically where they've taken that loan note that you signed and you've created all that credit, but they've taken it and left you with a debt, and actually they then charge you interest because they say you're renting the special purpose vehicle that you're passing that loan note through. It's nothing to do. So they securitize that note on, so they haven't got the original proof of indebtedness. So who has it? And they sell it on and on and on and on and on, right? Yeah. So take one bank, say like Santander, between 1996 to 2016, it was something like 547 trillion, 216 million. This is one bank, right, with mortgages, not loans, not credit cards, in one time period. Wow. That's trillions. Now imagine they can do that up to 9 times with fractional reserve lending, but they do it more. They can go up to 100 times. Wow. And that's one bank in one corner of the earth with one set of loans in one time period. People can't begin to imagine the amount of wealth that the assets strip from us. And they do it by accessing our trust, which is our birth bonds, our birth certificates, which are all share certificates in effect, but we don't know. It's like what the Catholic Church says: give me a child up to the age of 7 and I'll just give you a brainwashed, minion. That's and in trust law, we are supposed to declare ourselves, living before a competent authority before 7 years old, to declare the estate, to declare the trust. Else we are then classed as vacant goods or bona vacantia, and they hold our estates, and the state is the trustee of that estate. Well, they make themselves the beneficiary of the estate, and they just pilfer all our wealth, which is our equitable share,
Wow.
And that's
it's unbelievable.
And even when you die, that's why they want us all dead really by 70, because trusts only last for the 70 years. So that's how they fund trafficking, wars, drug trade. It's all, when you die, they can't take the principal amounts from the trust, but they can take all the interest off. So everyone who's ever died, they're still taking all the money. People, it's beyond, it's beyond.
And that's a whole podcast in itself, what we need to have as well, isn't it?
Yeah, we
but just on that though, so like, say, let's say someone comes out to school, they've gone college, blah, 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 they get a job in, I don't know, a solicitor firm or so, or like as a debt collector, say, or whatever else, right? Now, obviously, that person, they think they've just got a job. They're not aware of this stuff, right? Yeah. How many layers do you have to go back before you start getting to people who they know exactly what they're doing? Do you know what I mean? Because it's not your. I think in life, like, you'll get your local MPs and all the rest of it. Let's be honest, they're fucking pawns and puppets in it. They don't know themselves that they are part of a bigger thing, do they?
It's like, I call it minion syndrome. So, on that pyramid structure of power, it's all threes, isn't it? 3, 6, 9, who's drank wine, the pyramids, the triangles, the trusts, the triangles. So it filters down in that sense, and you're going to get them. It's like in any kind of crime syndicate. The Godfather, he don't go, well, he might shoot the odd one that he wants to, but, he gets everyone else doing the dirty work and he's lacking. Yeah. And it's exactly the same thing. It's just the biggest criminal fraternity, that's been raging for thousands of years. Yeah. And like we say, there's the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and all these names, the Vanderbilts and all of all these, 12 satanic bloodlines, allegedly, if you go in for all that. The sine wave, the serpent wave, but above that, I always say there's something far older and far darker. Families that, names aren't even spoken, and, go, look at films like, Jupiter Ascending, bit cheesy, but it's all there. The people that, are perhaps farming this place, and it goes back again to, maybe the Anunnaki, and who knows, maybe that's a load of bollocks, maybe that's just another narrative that they go through. We all go, we're all lizard creatures, idiots. But somebody was saying on a Facebook thread, but why do they need CCTV and all this stuff if these beings are so almighty and powerful and omnipotent and all the rest of it? Why do they need this? Well, it's AI, innit? They need that interface, within that next structure of the dream, really, But again, it's for people to kind of discern and to find out. Again, with the law, once you know the language of the law, you see the language of the spirit, it reflects, just like everything does. And then you're like, goggles on time, they live. And you can't not see it, like the rainbow they were putting on everything. And I've said this before. The six coloured rainbow is the light refracted. It's the illusion in it. It's Lucifer.
They use that for MK Ultra as well. The rainbow, I believe.
It's six. It's satanic. The six, as Saturn is the six, but it's all occult knowledge that they just use for dark. The knowledge is the knowledge, but if you want to use it for good, you can use it for good.
Absolutely.
They just use it for dark.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, is Saturn dark? It's got those myths and it's got those energies, so that's probably why they then worship it. Why does a god need worshipping? Worship me, sacrifice virgins to me, I'm great. It's like, well, hang on a minute, you're a bit of a knob. So that doesn't make sense, does it? Why would when I've seen source and creation, it's just love. Yeah, you feel this. It's just unconditional love, So,
but we do have these organisations, don't we? I mean, there's many, but obviously people think of like the Freemasons, and when you get to a certain level, it becomes very sadistic and satanic, and almost like. But then you go back to sort of Egyptian gods, where they used to give the children to the gods and feed them. And then you think of what's going on today, and you're just like
eating his own children.
Yeah, and you're like, what the fuck is? You know what I mean? It's like,
well, apparently, because we have Green Ray. If you're good, you kind of go through, cleansing your chakras and shit. you go to Green Ray, which is heart centre, allegedly. Who knows if any of all this is true? Who knows? But the dark, allegedly, they don't do Green Ray. They skip it, and they go from red. So it's red, orange, yellow. They go straight to blue. And then they go up like that because they can't do heart centre. So obviously love transcends everything. It transcends time. It beats everything. So that makes us more powerful than them. You the older, you strike a match in a dark room, it lights the whole thing up. The light is bigger than the dark. But then I had this theory, if you meditate or, the brain sits in the dark or the mind sits in the dark. Now, Lucifer is the light flicker on the wall. So what if they've inverted that? What if the dark is the light and the light is the dark?
and the thing is, when we're living in these scriptural biblical times, if you like, where you can't tell truth from fiction and lies. And last night I was flicking through, and I'd probably have to do some more research, but obviously there was a big case in America with this is his name Jones, he basically said this whole Sandy Hook thing was a load of bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Right. And he was sued millions, but yet he's not, you know what I mean, but he's still doing shows on telly. But last night someone had posted a load of stuff, and about 13 kids who were so-called killed. They were doing a school reunion. And they were like, and you're like,
there's loads of it in there.
And obviously you've got to be careful, you go down these rabbit holes. But I was clicking, and then but these were American people, and there was a fella on there, and he went, I live in the area, and I'm yet to meet a family member who's lost anyone.
Yeah.
Right? And now, obviously, you don't know if he's true or whatever, but the thing is, so it's like, if you lived in a small community, you would know somebody who's nearby. Now, the thing is, so why come he's not been sent to prison, or he's been fined that money and he's still out doing his talks? Yeah. But then it got even better, because then someone said, what's his name who does that InfoWars? What's his name?
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, yeah. But then somebody come on with a load of like a fact check, and they said, but you do know Alex Jones is also an infiltrator and work. So now you're like,
it's endless, isn't it?
It's like, what the fuck? You don't know what to believe. You've just got to go with your gut, and you
believe yourself.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Discernment, awareness, wisdom. Try and believe yourself. Yeah, definitely. Because it's just, it is, there's so much information, there's so much misinformation. What are you going to do? You'll be endlessly just chasing your own tail, and that's what they want you to do.
It makes you fucking ill. It makes you ill.
So then you've just got, I think it's like what you said, Kev, you've got to get it to a degree, really. Like me with the law, but then you've got to get to that point where you don't get stuck in it. Some people just get to Buddhism and get stuck. Some people get stuck in the law. Some people get, because I'm not like that. I know it's like my Gemini nature, but I'm I move. I might get stuck for a while, and then I'll go, oh no. Or you might get stuck emotionally, but you've got to keep on, haven't you? Like,
I think so. And also, do you know what? Like, I know other people have different opinions, but like in my life, I've done bits of everything, but I'm happy with that. I never wanted to be one of these who had a job for 30, 40 years, and I just couldn't be arsed with that
It's an
shit.
adventure.
Well, they
isn't it?
say, don't they, jack of all trades. Now, they teach you this at school, but they don't teach you the end bit. So it's jack of all trades, master of none. And I always used to think, oh, God, I'm like that.
Yeah,
it's
I'm a
actually
bit
jack
like
of all
that.
trades, master of none. Better to be good at lots of things than to be good at one or something like that.
Oh,
And they
I like that.
And they
I don't get that. I didn't know that bit.
Yeah, to just be good at one or something. And I was like, motherfuckers, they've even left that off. So because they don't want you to thrive in, it's like, again, it's keeping you in a box. If you're just good at one thing, that's brilliant. But, it's keeping you,
See, the version I got taught was jack of all trades, Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses.
Who's got that with it?
But that's interesting,
Yeah,
isn't it? But I've because it's like that. In periods in my life, I went through. I've read up on Buddhism. I've done counselling. I've been a baker. I can do all sorts of DIY building side of things. I've been painting and decorating. I've done a bit of everything in my life,
It's the tapestry
mate.
of life.
But I love it because, and then I always say this: like, I'll be sat here and I'll just come out with some useless bullshit, right? But what we've not talked about so far is, and it seems to be the subject of the day, everyone seems to be having this ayahuasca.
experience.
It's a very difficult word to spell as well, especially for someone like me. But I believe you've done ayahuasca.
I have done ayahuasca.
And I want to know,
Yeah.
how did it come about?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Yeah. So it was a friend of mine who's a shaman, because everyone's a shaman. I'm a shaman. You're not a shaman. You're a very naughty
Is it a shaman or a she-man?
A she-man. She-ram.
Everybody's a she-man these days.
I know, I'm the just.
Oh, here we go.
Anyway, back to the shaman.
Back to the she-mans. So I got offered to do it a few times, really, throughout my life. And I was like, they say you get a calling to it, the cosmic serpent, isn't it? So anyway, it came around and I went. It was like over 2 nights at this retreat. And it was... Yeah, there's a lot of Scousers there.
Right, okay.
Because I did it near Ormskirk, actually. Not as exotic as the
Some people
Peruvian jungle.
some people go to Peru.
Ormskirk.
You wanted to keep it real.
Fucking hell. So but lovely people. Anyway, so you obviously the psychoactive ingredient, they mix it with the root, don't they? The ayahuasca root, the DMT. So you're supposed to, you fast up to 2 weeks really, but I think they say at least 10 days before, which I'm used to fasting. So I that wasn't too bad. But I think perhaps my experience may have been, fueled by, years of abuse and partying. Anyway, because obviously they call it purging, when, you can be sick. Now, I was sick. Oh, was I sick? Yeah. Now, I hadn't done it before, so there's people who'd done it before, some people who hadn't, and I hadn't done it before, of course. So I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that you were sick, so you get your little, your little bucket at the side. You're in the main room. It was a beautiful building. It was gorgeous, and 2 friends of mine who, females. I won't mention the names, but beautiful. They were singing, and it was gorgeous. And oh my God, 5 hours of it, and without going too graphic, out of both.
Yeah, I've heard a lot.
I've heard about this. Is it true?
Yeah. Now, not everybody has that experience, because if you've done it before, you may just be sick a few times, and then you're going into it. But oh my days,
everything.
Yeah, and there was only one toilet downstairs, and because I'm very considerate, I had to come out of the main room because I was up and down like a bride's nightie type of thing. So I was on the couch, and I would literally go into all this, psychedelic kind of world, and. I would say that I connected with my inner child. That was kind of one of these things, like having some conversations with my inner child, having conversations with the grandmother, as they call Mother Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So, but me being me and being a bit kind of a control freak, particularly most of the time going, listen, love, and asking her loads of questions. Listen, I'm controlling this now, and she was just laughing at me. But obviously in between, having to go on the toilet and being sick at the same time, and because I'm nice, cleaning it up, making sure it's all nice. So I was like, to and fro in, and it was I don't like to say it's over. I think it's a bit overrated, the experience, because that's perhaps just my experience. Some people have profound healing from it, and I did take quite a lot from it. But it was funny actually the next day. Because obviously the next morning you do like sharing circle, and I mean some people are telling some real trauma in there, and I think that is part of it really, that people are standing up and literally I get goosebumps like telling these deep. I mean some of them being abused by the, I mean I'm like whoa, and you go there with this intention of clearing all this stuff out, that's and it gets stored in your cells, and hence why I think years of drinking and partying and my body was like, yes, we're going to rip this out of you. So it did happen anyway. So everyone's kind of sharing, and it kind of gets to me, and they're like, Jill, what is it you think you learned from the experience? And I was just like, sphincter control. And that was literally my answer. And from everyone having these really deep, serious kind of revelations, that's what I said. Everyone was like rolling about like, oh my god, you're so fucking funny. Wasn't so funny last night, but but then obviously I did share the deeper stuff, because I'm a bit of a joker sometimes, but I did kind of connect with that part of me perhaps that had been suppressed, and so, and obviously I'd had a really good detox, because the next day I just wasn't hungry, you don't eat, so and then we did it again that night, and I'm thinking, oh god, but like my friend said, she says it's highly unlikely that you've got all that out on the first experience. So we drank again on the second night, and very psychedelic then, not very deep, but kind of just all the swirls and the colours and the deities and all this stuff coming at you type of thing. So it was I was just sick a couple of times, and then you were in it. So would I do it again? No. I am much more. I like kind of breakthrough mushroom experiences more, I'd say, than ayahuasca. But I know that people, I think the danger is with it. It is a medicine, and people can kind of get hooked into doing it a lot. And I think again, it's balance again in it. You don't
have to respect what it is as well.
Exactly.
Dealer to healer we had on yesterday. He spoke about people who were doing it every other week and are just regular. And he said it becomes. He said, and you don't. I don't think that's the purpose of it. I think it is to, release past trauma and deal with certain things.
Yeah, it's a medicine, not a drug, as they say. It's not. You shouldn't just be getting off your tits.
And I tell you how popular it's become, because even on TikTok the other day, I sent it you, James Belushi, the actor. Oh yeah. He spoke about his whole experience because he did it.
Yeah. Mike Tyson's a big fan of mushrooms and DMT and ayahuasca. It's changed him, hasn't it?
Well, I know Joe Rogan and that, they all love the DMT, and that's another thing. DMT. Have you done DMT?
I have done DMT. Again, I've never. They call that a breakthrough dose, and I've not had that. So I would do it again if I was really. I think you can get really pure stuff. And again, as a medicinal thing, some people do it because it feels kind of. I don't actually particularly like being in that state. It's not for me. But when I do go there, it can be very profound. Like my pilgrimage up to Scotland. So I definitely use it medicinally, and I've really got into mycology actually. It just not even just trippy mushrooms, but growing I'm going to start growing, have a little mushroom.
We have we have a member on the community who does it, doesn't he?
Cool. There's a guy. I can't remember.
We'll have to dig his name, but there's a fellow on the community. So if you listen to this, he'll probably shout out and he grows and does all the mushroom stuff and all the psychedelic stuff and everything, doesn't he?
Wow, I love that.
So when you've done though the ayahuasca or the DMT and that, have you had any profound messages or spiritual stuff like you've brought it back with you, or?
I think the biggest one, like I say, for my ayahuasca, it was just more, and it was interesting actually. The second night on the ayahuasca, I connected with my inner child, and the second night I bought her an ice cream. So it was kind of profound in a way. I think at the time I was just being a bit probably arrogant about it a little bit. But then I think this last time when I've kind of, I did my pilgrimage to Scotland, and I kind of, and some friends came up of mine who were proper cosmonauts. Or they do it medicinally as well, but we all kind of did it together. And another friend of mine who dug out some stuff, we thought he was going to have a psychotic break, bless him. But, this is a guy who's kind of, he drank heavily, since he was 18 and hasn't touched a drop since, and that healing of, rewiring the brain and it acting as a key. And like I say, I came back around from that, and I had a very, when it comes into that peak of it, all these deities and entities coming visiting me, and I'm quite good because I've got a very strong mind, so I can still get up and get a glass of water, and I can distinguish it because I've done a lot of mushrooms when I was younger. I used to be able to just buy them at the hydroponics store in Preston and go and have a night out, when they used to sell them like that. So, but these are, when you're using it like that kind of, amount for that breakthrough. And then when it kind of calmed down, like I say, I'd kind of get a glass of water and come back and, just like being all serene. But I was just off world. So I was like in this kind of, luminous 2 moons, little spaceships, vroom, vroom, vroom. I could click back in. I could get up and go to the loo, and then I could come back and be straight back into it, So, and like I say, I came back round from that, and it helped rewire my brain because, the last year I had, it was very up and down, and it healed me. And it made me stop some, bad behaviours, and it probably makes you look at yourself in a, you see it. But it doesn't just do that. It rewires that thing in your mind and in your brain. So, and it's been proven, hasn't it, for PTSD, anxiety, it just connects you with yourself and source, and you see all that kind of stuff. And it's a beautiful thing, as they say.
It's funny, isn't it, when you look at the 90s wasn't really, I mean, people were doing mushrooms and stuff, but it was more a party drug in the 90s, wasn't it? You were on your, I mean, I used to do acid a lot in the 90s, and then obviously I smoked a lot of weed as well, but ease were the big thing in the 90s, but now it seems to be going into the plant medicine. People are really tapping into that.
Yeah, and I think it is, it's about rewiring our brains. We're as my friend who's a poet always says, you've got to untie the knots that you've tied in yourself. Like, I always like that line, because that's what we do. And then we're born in this place and we don't know what it is, So it's an amazing thing, really, that you kind of come out the other side. And then you have had these traumas, but the traumas, it's that they've walked you up or helped. Yeah, it's like you have to love the traumas, don't you? You have to love it all, but it's like, it's awful, but it's great, but it's awful, but it's great. It's like that.
Can I just ask, and it's probably a little bit off topic, but also connected, because you're obviously meeting you today, you're a very, very strong-minded person. You seem very grounded. You know your shit, but also you probably know what you want in life. How was that unfolded in the romantic side of your life? I know it sounds right. I tell you why. Because I can only imagine, like, people normally struggle in certain areas of their life where they excel in others.
Yeah.
And sometimes what you find is people excel in one area, but then they have this part of the life where I've never really mastered that. Or they go through relationships and they from one to another, and it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? And have you found this as well? Or?
Yeah, I would say I had a kind of arrested development in that department, and I think it's that. Wounded people attract wounded people, and if you've not done, the work really, and as cheesy as all that sounds, really, even to myself, but
it's true though, isn't it?
Yeah, you're just dragging it around, and even it's all in subtle levels, isn't it? And that's what these relationships that kind of come and help teach you. I never really stuck. Like I say, I would even say I've sacrificed relationships for truth, for my path. Like, almost like that's not going to cut the mustard, that I need to move, and as painful as it's been, or and it's like, if it's not going to, and that was part of the anger of me, really. I've realised, always fighting something, let it go, like, no, I won't let it go, and then I was just like, that energy in me and that trauma, and and then hurt people, and it's and if you can't see that mirror in the end of, and you're just going to keep repeating the same pattern, you're going to keep attracting the same kind of relationships. And I'm thinking, why do I keep attracting kind of angry, controlling men? Oh, let's work that out. Okay, and then you've got, once I've worked it out, I can go, oh shit, right.
But as an outsider looking in, I could see that. How you're going through these stages and learning, and you could understand why. Yeah. Like I've never met you today, but like, I would get the impression that I bet you've had probably 3-4 strong, solid relationships that unfortunately have fell apart, broke down, because you've gone through, learned from them the mirror, and then it fell. You know what I mean? and which is, and then it's ironic because obviously some people want that long-term partner. But then the thing is, if you had a long-term partner who was fully into what you like, so like your beliefs and everything else, that could become too much or too overpowering. So it's about getting that balance right, because also you wouldn't want a partner then who basically you're talking about whatever, the truth and sovereignty, and then they're just like, I've got a fax machine business to run, love, I'm not interested.
Yeah, you're right. It can be difficult, you know. You know, like attracts like, and then that sometimes can come at a cost, you know. So it's it can be difficult. And obviously, I think, like you say, like my friend Louisa said, you know, I weaponised my intellect. I got very logical, and I am a Gemini with Libra ascendant as well. So I'm I'm like, that's part of who I am. But also, I kind of learned to be tough. And I think I'm tough because I'm very vulnerable, really. It's like the softest people bark the loudest. So I'm like, really, actually, I'm just going, little girl inside me is going, me, like, you know, the wounded kind of child and all that. So my wounded little girl has attracted wounded little boys, you know. So it's all right me going, I want a man. Like a woman. Sort your shit out, Jill, you know. So that's kind of where I've got up to with that, really. Because it's that those behaviours that then can bring relationships down, unless you're both willing to work through it together and heal it together. And unfortunately, and I'm not saying this about all men, there's a lot of wounded boys out there, especially in this movement, that aren't willing to go internally and are projecting out, you know. And that's not all of them, you know. Everyone's got their individual journey, but put two of us together and it's great for a while.
Fireworks.
I can imagine that.
Right. Which is great. It's great, but also, you know, you'll pay the piper.
But different people see they on their journey, they're coming from different angles. So you'll have people who are very strong in one mindset, but then they struggle with relationships, or then others it'll be the finance side, and then others it'll be like they could be great with finance and love, but then they struggle with the spiritual side. And it's just it's very hard to find someone who's, you know, got all the little hexagons in the
working each of the muscle groups, isn't it? You've got to kind of do it, and mine definitely was that emotional kind of not brilliant with that kind of side of things, because I just won't go there, you know. It's just like, I did go there and I didn't understand why I was being a bit of a mess about it all. Whereas now I go, now I know why. So it's kind of like, as a kind of move, I would perhaps be more ready to attract. It's self-worth and self-love as well, isn't it? So if you're not loving yourself,
because also
you're going to attract someone 100%. Who's not loving you in the right way.
Relationships as well. Relationships. And let's be honest, when you meet somebody, you do take on board their opinions or their thoughts and everything else. That's part of a healthy relationship, isn't it? But also, I can imagine, if you're very deep into all the things that we've been talking about today, and if you meet someone who's like, well, should we get a house and get a dog? And you're getting very much pulled back into the 3D world, which that's not going to last long before that really fucking irritates your bells.
You've got to align on your path, haven't you? You've got to align on your individual path, and if you're fortunate enough that you've got a partner that's also on that path, then you've done very well. But I mean, ultimately, we're here to enjoy our life. And does that mean you have to be with someone?
Well, ultimately, no. But I think all of us at some level. I might be wrong, but I think all of us, like, at some level, want to share.
Of course you do.
I'd like one, you know, a man, but I've realised I have to be the woman for the man that I want, you know. If it's about that mirroring, well, then I need to do the work on myself.
Well, you don't want to keep repeating that, do you? If it's been painful, you don't want to repeat it.
And again, you know, oh God, it's so funny, like, even listening to me speak like this, because I wouldn't have even been even take it back a few years, I wouldn't have even been able to talk about anything to do with emotions, you know. So it shows how far I've actually come. I'd have been going, oh my God, you know, oh my God. I literally would have wanted to be sick. You know, I'm still a bit like that. But it shows that, you know, I know what that kind of is about now, and it's like, because really, you know, I think like Kev says, you know, everybody wants that, really. But,
I think so.
And you can kind of, I'm not normal particularly, but, you know, maybe some kind of beach hut in Bali with some hot Spanish guy, you know, just,
like,
you know, I'm like, okay.
But what's normal anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
I quite like I don't know if it's mythology or whether there's any truth in it, but apparently, I don't know, back in the day, people used to be soulmates, and this is where the word soulmates comes from. People used to be conjoined, and the god come down and cut them in half.
Like the twins.
Right, and it's like, and this way they say everyone's got a soulmate out there. And it could sometimes be the same sex, whatever. There was no what's it called. So, but I quite like the whole idea of maybe there's a little bit of us in someone else.
Yeah.
And then when
I
you
like
meet,
that,
the sparks go off, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then you can have like false twins, apparently. That someone told me that, like, where you can think this is like so close to it, but they're there to kind of rip you to bits before you meet the proper one, else you wouldn't be behaving properly or something like that. But yeah, I think it's like, well, you know, it proper is self-love, because if you don't love yourself enough, you're going to your boundaries aren't strong enough. You don't love yourself enough, you're going to see red flags and ignore them. But you know, you're not willing to walk away because you won't accept it.
You're not going to get hurt as much either if you've got self-love. Some things are not going to bother you as much either. Because
I think it's important, like when we speak to guests, that like, because people listening understand, like, look, okay, we're sat here, but we also have our struggles, or we might be doing okay in this area of life, but we're not doing okay because that makes us normal.
My van blew up.
Your van needs fixing. So you've had troubles with your van, haven't you?
Yeah, my love life is it's like a car crash. But that's not true actually. But it's like, you know, just as a sweeping exaggeration. But no, I mean, I think what, you know, like, I think there was like it's always a meme, isn't it? But it's like if you think being on a level is boring. You know, I used to think that were boring because it wasn't like this all the time, or you know, there wasn't some drama, or there wasn't like this high passion, and then there's then these laws to it. Whereas now I'm like,
I like that.
Give me something.
I like a bit of fun as well.
A bit of that, exactly. But give me the slow ember as well. You know, like, let it just be easy.
I think that's because I'm getting older, me though. I just like going, you know what? I'm sick of all that shit, man.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Innit? You know, I am 34 soon.
Exactly.
But yeah. No, I was like 44 this year. So you do get to that point now where I don't want, you know, and that is, you know, you're going after emotionally unavailable men. Oh, I've been emotionally unavailable. You know, it becomes, okay, you know, so you know, it's like, you know, it's so easy to go, well, it's them. We split up because it's them. Whereas I'm not, you know, I go, hang on, let's have a look at this, because I'm creating this. So you've got to look at, I've got to look at
Once
me.
you realise you're the creator.
And it is because people do attract the same type of people back into their lives unless they've worked on it. And do you know what I mean?
Those cycles.
You know, and it starts off great at the start, but then it's sort of just,
I agree.
do you know what I mean? You start thinking, oh, here we go again. I've done it again.
It's about letting go again, and letting it go is so important.
But that's where someone like Dave brought him up again, because if he could go into people's mind therapy and say, look, you don't need to think like that anymore. You don't need that anymore.
Where was Dave 10 years ago?
Where's Dave? Come on, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
He was too busy raving at his wife's disco.
Is that a euphemism?
Yeah.
No, it is. It's true, isn't it? You know, like even hearing myself talking about it, like I go, cringe. But it is true. It's the self-love, isn't it? And I think we get to this, you know, part in our 40s or getting that bit older. It takes time to see the patterns, the crap that you've left behind in your wake, and you go, oh, why do I keep doing that? But if you've just done it, there's no pattern. It's like, oh, hang on. Crap, this is me now. That's not them. That's so me. You know?
Well, people never really look deep enough. I mean, I'm not saying this as well with yours, but there will be cases where people's relationships, it's never worked, and it will be some kind of trauma, like my mum and dad split up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right, and it's like, so like, because in life you normally find like what you would have seen is like I had an example here. Right, okay, so let's say you take a fella and his dad left his mum and he was brought up just by his mum. And then he goes out and gets a girl pregnant and he goes, I'm going to be the best dad ever and I'm going to stick by you because I'm not going to be like my fucking dad. 3 years later, he's in the pub on his own. Well, I thought you were going to be like your dad. And they don't even understand how it all, it's deeper than you could ever imagine, that trauma and that.
Massive.
Yeah, and also things repeating themselves and history and cycles and...
I said after my mum and dad split up, and obviously my dad was grieving, my mum kind of gone, my sister was gone, the whole thing was gone, like, so it's just crazy. And then that was it for them, you know. So I grew up going, I don't want to get married, I don't want children. So, and I've never been married and I never had children. Now I don't think I can have children, but that's a different story. But I weren't bothered because I didn't want them. But really, I programmed myself from my trauma to not want that because I saw that as pain.
I was just about to say that.
So I created, you know, going after emotionally unavailable men. Because really, I was emotionally unavailable. So
Exactly.
it was an easy thing to chase because I never get it.
Yeah.
You know, and created all this drama and all this, you know, and it's brilliant. 'cause
But
then
if you
it has
look at it
the
from
highs,
that angle, it would
Yeah.
make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
And you could probably look at yourself from that angle and go, for fuck's sake,
Yeah.
this makes so much sense now.
Yeah,
You know, but
yeah.
and it's just a part we have to learn about ourselves.
Well, this is
isn't
when
it?
you're doing the work on yourself, which obviously
Yeah.
you've been doing. And I think last year was a big part for a lot of people
Yeah,
in the
we've
movement,
said
if you
that.
like, that are working on themselves.
Ant has a sixth sense. He'll I'll be thinking about Ant. He'll text me, go, "You okay?" And I go, and we don't talk every day, do we? All, but you know, it might be a couple of months go by, and I literally go, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to ring Ant tomorrow." And I was about to, "You okay?" And like you know, when I've been in some really low places, I'll get,
Good.
"You okay?" And I go, "Ah!" It just pops up.
Yeah, we've done it
You're
a
like
few
one of them
times.
whack-a-moles.
and that lovely in itself, though,
is,
where you've got
connection.
like a friend or whatever, just reaching out,
Yeah.
just having this. I'm just going to see if she's okay, and blah blah. That's just lovely in itself, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, not many
I have
people
no
do
fucking
it,
mates
you know.
who do that. Yeah. No fucking ever messages me and go, "Is Kev alright?" I mean, just because I'm an emotionless fucking freak, like that doesn't mean I might want. Hey, I have rights as well, you know. I want the rights to have feelings.
You're the fucking demiurge.
Yeah, it's just the fucking demiurge. Well, I'm like neurodiverse, but worked that one out. It was because I was trying to work an X out, and I was like, "Oh my god, he's so Aspergic." And I was reading about it, and I went, "Oh my god, so am I." It's just like, so it gives me a certain set of skills, but emotional. I think it's a bit of a perfect storm, like I say, when I was younger, but certainly that, you know, very much in my head, like my projects, hyper focus, emotions, ping. You know, I don't, you know, I've not dealt with them well historically, but yeah, getting a lot better.
It's all coming together. I'm sure it's all going to come together
Of
over the
course
next
it will.
few
And
years.
we're going to see more of you.
Oh, we have to. I said this before on that. We had a little break, and I said, "You know what? Today's been so enjoyable. We're going to have to get Carly back, or Kelly, or whatever.
I love it, yeah.
or Jill. We're going to have to get you back because we want to talk about so many things. You're a fountain of knowledge, and it's just been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, as
So-
well from you guys, and I want to do some of the skits.
100%.
Get me in there.
100%.
Yes.
I'm just jealous of the wigs.
I don't
Where's
just
my hair gone?
so earlier, Carly got to see a little bit of the skit what we're
Yeah,
doing,
yeah.
and she was like belly laughing with us.
Oh
so
my
do you know
God,
what?
so
If it has that effect on people,
Definitely.
well, you know.
That's what it's about.
Well, I always said one of these days people are going to find me funny. And,
I laugh at you every day.
I actually think it's your best yet. I've barely laughed at the others like online, but just I think that's it's absolute gold, that one.
tremendous. That's the way it's going.
Please subscribe. We need your subscriptions.
Yeah,
please.
tell all your friends and family. Get on YouTube and subscribe. Get on Rumble and watch the things that are not allowed on the other channels.
Got a couple of banned ones.
You know, and just get behind the project and get in touch. Okay, thanks
Thank you,
everyone.
Callie.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for having me,
you.
guys. Really loved
thanks.
it. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Bye.